Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 307 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, one half of your humble host for the next couple hours of intense gaming discussion, led by two people who have 40 plus years of experience in the games industry between the two of them.
Jeez.
I don't know if you can say that about too many other shows you're going to find about video games on the interwebs.
Well,
two people.
Seth's come back to X-Play this week. So
Yeah, what is up with that, actually? Why did he disappear for a while?
I don't know. I think he just had a break.
Like, not a mental break? Like
no, I think he was just taking a break. I mean, he lives in another city, so it's not like he's always around.
Well, it seemed like he was away for a long time because of the health issues with his wife, and then he came back. It didn't seem like he was back very long before he left again.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what's going on there at G4.
I know they changed the schedule again, which the placement of X-Play feels better. I don't know. I mean, we'll see if they last past November, which is sort of the year mark, which is kind of like where you would probably pull the plug on the budget of something if you were not going to continue with it. But
yeah.
I don't know.
It doesn't feel like it's gonna last.
I feel like they've done better than Ven.
I mean, their programming's way better than Ven.
Oh, yeah. Also, they didn't vanish the way Ven did.
Yeah.
At the very least, I see people like trashing them, which is more than I can say.
It was like Ven didn't even exist.
Yeah, no one cared enough to trash Ven.
I mean, we talked about Ven on this show, and people in our chat didn't even know what it was.
No.
And I'm like, if our audience doesn't know what Ven is, it is doomed.
I brought it up a couple times to people I know who, when it first launched, we watched it kind of together, and they didn't remember what it was. So, not...
Yeah, and that's also gone now.
Oh, yeah,
R.I.P.
long gone.
Matt, do you think... I understand that G4 is trying to look at the current media landscape and create content that it believes is what people want now. But do you think that like X-Play would do a lot better if it was like the old X-Play, where you knew you could watch it and you could get like 3 or 4-minute video reviews with some fun commentary in between, nice tight 22-minute show?
Maybe. I mean...
I really think it would.
I mean, I think it'd be better than what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Would it be successful enough to maintain? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that format still holds any cachet, because the format now is long form essay content. You know. And here's the thing: you could do that within an X-Play format. You could do X-Play could absolutely be adapted. I mean,
toss to the packages.
A lot of the video essay stuff I see is clearly influenced by X-Play. Like. The funny stuff, the comedy, the cutaways, the analysis, sort of the balance of serious and the balance of, hey, this is just games and we're having fun. They're bringing in the real world references for jokes and to make fun of that. Like, you know, when we started that, everybody just was furious because how dare we mix funny things with video games serious business kind of thing.
Right.
And I mean, you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, like, that's the standard mode. Like that, I'm going to go ahead and say that between us and Vic Lucas, we kind of created that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, go watch some of IGN's video reviews from this week.
Yeah,
they're loaded with jokes, terrible jokes that aren't funny, but they're trying to make the scripts funny.
Yeah,
and we were better.
I
at
think
it. I'll just be honest.
I will say I think there's some video essay people on YouTube that are just as good, if not better, than we are.
Yeah,
that we were. Like,
I'm sure.
I would hope so. Some of that stuff is really funny.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. 20 years later, however long it's been at this point, somebody would improve on that formula. You would think, but
it's great. H Bomber guy is very. If you can bring yourself to sit through the 3-hour analysis of Deus Ex: Human Revolution, it's very funny in places.
Yeah, some of the hires there. I don't know what the people are thinking. I don't even know who is doing the hiring there anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what
some of the people working there.
The virtual person seemed like a weird choice, like the virtual anime girl.
I didn't even see that.
That's there's like a the virtuoid or what like the person who streams like with an AI, like a fake animated avatar instead of themselves, who pretends to be that character. Like that's one of the hosts.
No. I just know some of the people working behind the scenes have like no experience in games at all. Like, you want a little bit of that because you don't want just all people like us working on game. Because when you have people who come from a different place, they have different ideas, and sometimes you can create some really awesome stuff that way. It seems to me that almost all the people who are working behind the scenes there have very little experience working in games. It seems like they just went and hired like B2B marketing people and like Hollywood folks. Like,
I think a lot of the upper echelons is that, yeah. And they've lost some of the gaming people too.
Yeah. So. I could understand why if you're working around those other folks. So anyway,
It just feels like they never quite knew what they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And it's certainly a very different beast than what would have been hinted at if you watched that Thanksgiving reunion special.
Yes, that's a good point, actually.
Because that Thanksgiving reunion special really nailed the tone that the old stuff had.
It did. And it looked like it was going to continue, and that has not really been the case. I think Attack of the Show has probably been the better show between it and X-Play so far.
Yeah, probably.
I'll say this. It's the most
like
the format
the
old show.
Yeah. X-Play was always a more produced and more planned thing, more scripted thing.
Yep.
But I am also, if nothing else, it got Sessler to enjoy being in front of the camera again.
Yeah, and look, I wish
really
Sessler, we both do. We both love Adam, literally like a brother. And we only want the best for him. And if G4 doing well means it's good for Adam, that's what we want.
Yeah, it's really nice to see him enjoying it again.
Yeah, because he didn't for a
while.
No,
for a long time he didn't.
A lot of people ran him off.
Very understandably, yeah.
Let's be honest. So anyway, here we are for GameFace 307, again on Sifted Games at sifted.net. Slogging through the dog days of summer, Matt. We are doing our best here to bring good shows to you guys every week. I think we've managed to do that somehow for this entire year. Our first topic today...
As best we can.
Yeah. We're going to get into some of the other stuff that's been going on in our first topic. We're kind of bringing back the Big Six. Our first topic today is a collection, a potpourri of stories that aren't quite big enough to get their own topic in the show, but we're going to round them up and kind of talk about them off the top of the show. And then we have a couple games to talk about and a couple other really interesting topics. Matt and I always do a good job of making discussion interesting no matter what we're discussing. A couple things before we get going. Our new episode of our new show, New Dimension, is live right now on YouTube. It went up at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. If you guys could do the same thing that we did with the first episode of New Dimension, head on over to our YouTube channel and like and comment and do all that stuff so we can try to break through the algorithm with that show. I really like the show. I think the show's great. The second episode that we just put up about 10 minutes ago is about Kirby and Kirby's transition from 2D to 3D. So if you guys could all, just this very moment, go over into another tab, go to youtube.com/siftedgames. It will be the first video on our list because it was literally just published. If you can go over there and like that and maybe leave a quick comment about how you like New Dimension, that would be awesome. That's, I feel, how we're going to grow our audience and we're going to grow Sifted and grow our Patreon is through you guys interacting with our content on YouTube and helping us break through that brutal algorithm that has just been whooping our butts for like 6 years now. We can't seem to break through. It feels like we're always on the cusp and it doesn't happen. So again, head to youtube.com/siftedgames and at least like New Dimension, which again just went up like 10 minutes ago. We'd really, really appreciate it. And if you haven't watched it yet, give it a watch. A lot of work goes into that show. It takes a whole month to produce each episode of that show. Vincent does a lot of hard work on New Dimension. Our voiceover guy, Mike's Q, also, he has to voice that thing. It's like 20 minutes long. That's a lot of work. So if you appreciate the work that goes into the show, even me just editing the script and going back and forth on it, it's a lot of work. So if you appreciate that and you like the show, please head over there and at least give it a like. We'd really, really appreciate it. What else? I don't know if she's watching or not. My mom does watch GameFace a good bit. But if she is watching, I just want to take a second to acknowledge that her cat is on the verge of dying. And her cat, some of you guys may not remember, you may be new to GameFace or Sifted or whatever, but a handful of years ago, my sister was killed in a car accident, and this cat helped my mom get through it. And the cat is about to die, and she's about to put it to sleep. So, I'm getting choked up.
We love our cats here.
Yeah. And so anyway, send some positive vibes to my mom. She's hurting today. I'd really appreciate it. And with that, uplifting start to GameFace, I think we'll just get right into the topic so I can forget how sad I'm feeling right now and we can talk about awesome video games. As I said, we're going to kick the show off with a potpourri of topics because there's a bunch of stuff that happened this week that aren't big enough to generate an entire topic, but are good enough to collect into something, and they're worth discussing because they're kind of big stories. In fact, a lot of these stories were like main topics in other podcasts this week, but luckily we have enough stuff that we don't need to do that. First up, we're going to talk about another delay, Matt. I'll be honest with you, I've never seen anything like this in my life.
I'm just going to go ahead and say that when we draft next year's
can I just keep my team?
No, you do not get to keep Starfield because Starfield will slip to 2024. You're a curse.
Can I just keep my whole team? Are you cool with that?
Pretty close.
Because it really is at this point. Almost my entire team has been delayed into 2023. It's over, by the way. Congratulations, Matt. You have won this year's Fantasy League. I have no chance. But Square Enix has delayed Forsaken into just January, or Forspoken, I'm sorry. Into just January. It's now coming.
It is Forsaken.
It is.
Forsaken to Q1.
Yeah, it is coming January 23rd. 23 days.
Do you buy that?
No, I think it'll be delayed again
I think
to March or
slip
whatever.
To I don't think it'll leave Q1, but I think it'll slip a bit more.
Yeah.
I think it might end up in its original February release date just next year.
A year later.
Yeah.
It's crazy, though. Square Enix, if it really is bailing on the Western market. It's like, this was the only game left that it had in development that was really made for the West, so to speak, and it just keeps getting delayed.
I will say that Final Fantasy 16 looks more and more like it might be more global friendly.
Yeah.
Just because they're not, they're using a British localization
Yeah.
thing. They're using different actors.
That's true.
That I'm hoping that turns out to be less, because part of the thing is like you get the usual anime dub team, you're gonna get that style. Like I've even asked someone who was a voice director for anime dubs, like, why are they all like so embarrassing? Like why are they like that? And she basically said, like, because that's what the fan base expects. Like that's what anime dubs are supposed to be. Is like they're supposed to be kind of bad.
Yeah.
Like if you do it too good, and they've done that before in certain projects. Like we did it too good, and everyone complained.
That's sad. But Forspoken, as you're seeing right now, is kind of an open world action RPG where this girl gets transported to this magical world. A girl from Brooklyn, by the way. Gets transported to this magical world where she has a bracelet that talks to her.
I'm continually, in terms of related to what we talked about last week, I am continually reminded of Infamous with this game.
A little bit,
like
yeah.
There's some Infamous in
I
this,
can see where that comparison could be made. Because the combat, it looks okay, but it also looks maybe a little bit janky.
It's really when she's doing the little projectile thing, she holds her hand out the same way Cole did.
You're right, yeah.
Like that's what keeps making me think of it.
Yeah. Well, we just hit level 4 of the hype train already, and we're just getting started. Thanks, guys. That's awesome. In fact, I totally forgot to thank people for Twitch Prime. Let's see if I can do that really quickly here. Talika81, thank you. Minority Games, thanks for the bits. Who else did we get in here with Twitch Prime before we got started? Nexus 6 Baddie, thank you for Twitch Prime. Aussie Brit 2000, thank you for Twitch Prime. Ian Esquire, thank you for the bits that contributed towards the hype train. Ian Esquire, thank you. Jolt31, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Toast9. Johnny Hurricane, how you doing, Johnny? Hope you're doing good, man. Haven't talked to you for a while. Minority Games, thank you for subscribing. There's a lot. Liberal Hack, thank you for Twitch Prime. Rigor Mortis UK, thank you. Not Cirque. So many today.
People are complaining the volume is
Commander
too low.
Fett. What, we're too low?
Yeah.
It's the same setting that
quiet.
this show is at every time. I did not even touch the mixing board.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's the same every time.
I was trying to lean away from the microphone because I'm too loud all the time.
No, I don't know what the problem is. It's the same as it always is. So anyway, thank you guys for all the people who hooked us up with Twitch Prime. Personally, I'm not all that upset that Forspoken is delayed. I'm excited for it and I want to check it out, but I'm not like devastated other than the fact that it's now one of like 20 games that have been delayed out of the year, and there's just what's left.
Hope you like Pokemon.
I mean, it's really getting down to like Saints Row and Pokemon and a Call of Duty.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
God of War.
Xenoblade comes out, God of War, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Xenoblade comes out the last day of this month, basically.
And maybe what was the thing that's supposed to be out? Oh,
there's Bayonetta, there's Splatoon.
Callisto Protocol maybe makes it in December.
That's true. But again, I would not be surprised.
No, absolutely would not be surprised.
Well. Oh, man. It's insane, man. Oh, Mellowak, thank you for Twitch Prime as well. People are saying audio is fine. Volume is good to me. Okay. Someone needs to turn up their speakers, I think. Because literally, this mixing board sat still, and from last week, it's exactly the same
Mario
as it was
and Rabbids, yeah.
Mario plus Rabbids, yeah.
There's some stuff. It's just not like marquee stuff.
Think about how great this year could have been.
Well, it'll just be next year.
Next year is going to blow people's doors off. And I hope we're still around to talk about it. That's like the thing. It's like this year, it's the year we really needed all these big games to come out. Because, I mean, it's just the truth. Like, people are less excited to tune in to watch a video game podcast if there aren't big games coming out. It's just the facts. So Would have been really nice in our time of need if the industry could have come through with a bunch of big releases, but it just has not played out that way. So Forspoken is delayed, coming now January 23rd, if it does end up even making that date. Mm-hmm. And then, as Matt alluded to, God of War got a confirmation, an actual release date. People will finally leave Cory Barlog alone. God of War coming November 9th. What chance do you think of, if there's any chance, that it will be delayed?
Zero.
You really think it's completely zero?
Yeah, this is coming.
I would still give it maybe a 5% chance. I don't trust anything anymore, Matt. I really don't.
I trust Cory Barlog.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really his call.
Right. There's still a lot of work to be done, I'm guessing, although it should be.
I think they're probably just polishing. I'm sure it's mostly done. It's really up to Sony's marketing at this point.
Yeah. And they released this
fine.
trailer here.
They're unopposed at this point.
Yeah, they are.
There's nothing.
It's going to sell like so much.
Yeah.
It's going to sell probably some PS5s too, is my guess. But they gave us this 20-second trailer. Matt, why are they so stingy with media on this game?
I don't know. It makes me wonder, like, if we got like a Metal Gear Solid 2 situation
where there's just some crazy flip of the script that they just are like, we can't hint at anything, we can't show too much because people are smart.
That's what I think of. That's what it makes me think of. I don't know.
Interesting.
I'm not saying I'm right.
Because we literally have like one real trailer and two like teasers.
Yeah.
And that's it. And this game's coming out now.
Maybe Kratos dies way earlier than we think.
Oh, Lord. Oh, man. What do you mean? Where you think Kratos is going to die in this?
Absolutely.
Really?
I think this is, you hand the torch off to.
You think this is a swan song for Kratos?
I think this is it.
Ooh, man! I just did.
Where else do you go with the sad dad?
I understand.
That's what Sony does. They kill the dad in the second game. That's Last of Us did it. They're going to do it.
That would be crazy. So I just did an episode of Ask Shane Anything where we're talking about like somehow I got to E3 reveals, and so I ran like a montage of big E3 reveals. I did the Twilight Princess one where people lost their minds over realistic Zelda, and then I ran God of War 2018 when it was shown for the first time and how people freaked out about that. Like, if they kill Kratos, like.
People are saying like he can't die because they got to explore the mythologies. They hand it off to Atreus, who is the trickster.
Yeah.
The trickster in all mythology. So he goes around causing chaos. That's the next game, is you're going to play as Atreus, going around wrecking people's shit.
That'd be brutal.
For killing his dad.
People will lose their minds.
He's going to do like a gore thing from like Thor. He's like, all gods must die because they ruined my life.
People will lose their minds if they kill off Kratos.
Now, to be fair, Kratos can come back a lot of different ways.
Right.
I mean, he got cut in half in God of War 3.
And that's a good point. Yeah. I think I thought he's been dead at least twice already.
I think he thought he's been dead a couple of times. But he clearly doesn't like being alive.
Yeah.
So like, he'd really be getting what he wants. I mean, a character must want something, and at the end of the story, either get it or not get it. And he didn't get that at the end of the last story. I feel like at a certain point, you got to give Kratos what he wants.
Yeah.
Which is death.
He does want death.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. But he keeps fighting. Like, he's fighting for his life.
Because he's the god of war. It's all he knows how to do.
It's bizarre.
Like, that's why Atreus is so important, because it's the one little brief sliver of his life where he wasn't that.
Yeah.
That's why it's important.
Yep. So release date confirmed.
Shit going on here. There's some stuff they got to do here.
Yeah, it's true.
It's up to us.
Yeah. So anyway, date confirmed. November 9th coming to PS4 and PS5. Again, don't forget, this is one of those games that's still dragging its foot in last gen. This game is going to sell way better than 2018 did, because there's just no competition for it.
Yeah, as long as it's as good or better than the first one.
Yeah, which I would be surprised if it's not at least as good.
The one thing a lot of people are questioning, like, is God of War going to is it going to be good enough to beat Elden Ring in the Game of the Year competitions? And I gotta say, that's a hard thing to call, because people are like, well, it's like, Elden Ring is a big darling and everybody loves Elden Ring, but people are saying like, oh, everybody thought Red Dead Redemption 2 was going to be the Game of the Year, and then God of War came out, the first one came out in 2018, and it won all of them because it blew everybody out the back of the theater. I don't think that's a super great comparison, because Red Dead Redemption is an example of production value covering up the fact that the game kind of sucks, whereas Elden Ring is all game.
We're actually going to talk about that other game you're discussing next.
the thing I wonder about is, that's a hard comparison to make. The question becomes like, can you overcome the hype of Elden Ring? Because to me, I don't think Elden Ring's as good as the first God of War. So if you
I
just
would agree
make
with
something
that.
as
Obviously,
good as
I'm willing to
I mean,
agree
I
with
love
that.
Elden Ring. You know, I love Elden Ring,
Yeah.
but I think the original 2018 God of War is a better game for me. And so if you make something as good or better than the first God of War, I think in my book, you probably have a pretty damn good shot. But I wonder if the press will be able to see through the Elden Ring, or if the press will be able to, like, you know what, if we don't give it to Elden Ring, we're going to get death threats for the next year, so why don't we just give it to Elden Ring? That's also
I would
a
hope
factor.
that would not be the case, that kind of pressure would not come into play, but I mean, understand why you might think that could happen.
Who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Right?
People do care.
Oh, people do care, but it's like, I mean, if you just give it to the, like, you see the Game Awards.
I mean, why you're saying, like, why would you care?
Yeah,
just
why
give it
go to
Elden
the
Ring?
mat on that and deal with all that bullshit when you just give it to the other stupid game and call it a day and never hear about it again? Like, what's the fucking point?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
why have the fight?
I think editorially, you just want to get it right. At least that's my perspective. So, I would never give in to the mob like that. I understand what you're saying,
but also
why other outlets might. But
I don't see this giving in to the mob as more like kind of cutting the baby in half. It's like. Because look, I could see an argument for Elden Ring being a game of the year.
Like,
absolutely.
I would never say, like,
it's not
you're
like I want
crazy if you think that.
Yeah, it's not like I'm saying, like, well, you got to give Game of the Year to, I don't know. What are the bad games?
Babylon's Fall?
Babylon's Fall. Because Babylon's Fall, for some reason, has really been embraced by people who own, like, assault rifles.
Well, I'll say this, ultimately.
It hasn't. No one embraced Babylon's Fall. No one liked that.
I am glad that on some level I do not have to now blame Babylon's Fall for my fantasy loss this year.
Oh, yeah. That looks like a really minor problem now, doesn't it?
It was going to be the scapegoat, but not anymore. It doesn't work. I would just, as my editorial team, I would allow them to pick the real winner. If I suspected that there was any of that, like, well, if like anyone brought up in the meeting, well, I don't want to get like harassed on Twitter for that I would be really pissed off if one of my editorial people brought that up in a discussion. I totally understand your perspective, though, because you're right. Like, if you do not give Elden Ring Game of the Year this year, you're going to get it.
Yep.
It's just the truth.
Get it with a GIT.
Yeah, you're going to GIT it. Yeah, you're going to get it. So I understand.
You're not going to get good. You're going to get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can understand why that might creep into someone's mind. I think it's the job of EICs and executive editors to make sure that does not come into play when you're selecting the winner. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, yeah. But I will say that if that is something that EIC decides to take a hard line on, like, you better be ready to protect your people. Mm-hmm. Because the shit's real out there now.
But you can't protect them. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, you can try to stand up for them on social media, but then you
can also more. I'm talking about you can listen if they come to you and they're like, "There's a real problem."
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Totally get that. So anyway, it looks like God of War confirmed for November 9th. So in this year of delays, at least it appears that we're going to get another gem that we thought we were going to get at the beginning of the year. We thought we were going to get last year because the original release date was 2021.
I didn't think that.
You didn't. I did. And so it does look like we're going to get another kind of blockbuster game that we've all been waiting on for a really long time this year. At least I hope so. If they delayed that, I think it would just break my heart.
Well, you can always just play the new update of The Crew 2.
That's true. That's true. Or another game, Ubisoft game we're going to talk about in just a second. Next up, Red Dead Online is dead.
Red Dead.
It's Red Dead. Are you surprised by this at all? So, I guess just to let you know, like, Rockstar this week said Red Dead Online is basically getting no more updates because it claims that it needs to work on GTA Online and Grand Theft Auto 6. Does that add up to you, Matt?
I mean, I guess as a business decision, yes, but it's just kind of a shame.
Does it add up as a business decision?
Yeah, because you're going to make more money from GTA 6.
You will, but do you think they do not have the resources to do both of those things?
Apparently not. If they want to all hands on deck GTA 6, so it's done maybe a year sooner than it would otherwise be. I mean, there's a point at which it doesn't matter how many bodies you throw at something. It's going to take how long it takes.
Well, the business decision, you're right. There is an angle to it of a business decision.
Like, I'm sad that
Red Dead Online sucks.
Yeah, well, I'm also sad that they're not going to do the next gen update for Red Dead 2.
Yeah,
that was apparently in the cards at some point.
And a GTA 4 next gen update too,
like a 60 FPS update for this, and so that's not going to happen. That's a shame.
That is a shame.
Like that.
I wouldn't be surprised if they come back to that someday, though.
Maybe, but like for now, it seems to be everybody get GTA 6 going because we need that next, whatever next means in this context.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, that Bully 2 project is happening.
And if you talk to Pactor, there's still like a racing game coming from Rockstar.
Right,
at
that
some
Midnight
point.
Club revival thing he keeps talking about.
Yeah, forever he's been talking about it. It's never happened. I just think that Red Dead Online just tanked.
I mean, I don't think it tanked so much as it just didn't do as well as
GTA Online.
GTA Online.
Yeah,
like you either
that's the bar.
You either match the king or you go home.
Yeah,
that seems to be the rule here. And I'm sure. I mean, I haven't heard much about Red Dead Online in a while. I know it was still updating here and there, but it just wasn't part of the conversation. It sort of tapered off. Meanwhile, you still see GTA Online videos posted and tweets and so.
Red Dead Online just disappeared into the ether.
And I liked it. I thought it was fun.
You liked Red Dead Online?
I liked it okay.
I hated it.
Once they updated enough,
I hated it.
Once they updated enough that I could just wander around and not see anybody and like do my own little quests.
Now
and
that
stuff, I liked that.
That's fine, but that was not how it was when it
No,
launched.
it wasn't.
It was just people riding around looking for people to kill.
No, that stopped. That was everybody was kind of running around doing their own thing when I played it. Like I'll play it much later, obviously, but like I would load it up when a new update came out or whatever and poke around. I would play it for a few days, and it was fun. It was a nice way to explore the map and the world without having to sort of deal with the story, and things like that of the campaign.
They made a huge mistake.
It was cool, but like I understand why I didn't catch on. I understand why I didn't catch fire the way GTA Online did.
Yeah, it turned me off. I went and started playing after I went through because the tutorial for this lasts for like ever.
Oh, it goes on and on.
It goes on and on. And I made it through that, and I finally get out into the actual game, and I'm just getting murdered every 10 seconds. Like, it was a horrible decision for the first 3 months to let people do that. It just turned me off. I'm like, wait a minute, like
once they added in the peaceful mode or the neutral
it was too
mode,
late.
It became a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah, but it was too late. They had lost more than half of the audience that may have played it at that point, and a lot of people just went back to GTA Online. So you're right. At a certain angle, it is about finances. It just wasn't generating the revenue that GTA Online was.
Mm-hmm. And I think there is an argument to be made that maybe almost any other company would have been happy with the revenue this was bringing in.
Yeah.
But GTA Online creates certain standards internally.
Rockstar's a different beast.
Yeah.
To be sure.
And 2K is pretty mercenary in general.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So looks like that's the end of the line for Red Dead Redemption 2. Both as far as what really sucks to me, Matt, is that they refused to do single player DLC for this Red Dead Online because they followed the template from GTA 5. Right. And as it turns out, Red Dead Online sucked. At least in my opinion, and we never got the single-player DLC. And now they're cutting Red Dead Online short much earlier than GTA Online. So this is one of those cases where I feel like in the end, the decision to create a quote-unquote ongoing game or a game as a service failed. It failed Rockstar, and it failed people who bought Red Dead Redemption 2.
I mean, it failed to the degree of that I guess Rockstar wanted it to be. Mm-hmm. It did last like 5 years.
Has it been 5 years since Red Dead 2 came out?
This came out 2018, so it lasted. Yeah. When did they launch online? Because it didn't launch with online.
Yeah, so it's been like three and a half years. Yeah, I mean, they didn't bail that early, I guess, when you look at it that way. But we're just used to the bar being GTA Online, and in that regard, it failed miserably.
Yeah, but you can't judge anything by the winner, by the top dog. I mean, that's not a realistic expectation.
Even for Rockstar, it's not realistic.
No.
Which is pretty crazy to think about.
Which does seem to be their expectation, but like that doesn't mean we got to fall into the same trap.
Yeah.
It's fine. I enjoyed what I played of it. It never really hooked me tremendously. I can still go back and play the single player game, I guess. At least there's no real interaction there, so I'm not missing anything.
Yeah.
But
lots of discussion in the chat about Red Dead 2. Barry Lomax says it's good, but it was boring after like 80 hours.
It was boring to me after less than that, but I'll tell you, man. Every time
that's pretty good, man.
Every time I would load this game up, online or offline, it would take me like 20 minutes to remember how all the stupid controls worked, how all the weird ways they decided to make you do all the things worked, and how like you're fighting the animation constantly, and it's like. I didn't like this game very much in terms of just the moment-to-moment playing it.
I mean, let's be honest, it was kind of boring.
Yeah.
It was extremely realistic.
Gorgeous.
And gorgeous, and sometimes it blew your mind with the stuff that happened, But a lot of the time, it was kind of boring.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I think I've mentioned this before. You need some dead space. You need some boring parts to make the exciting parts stand out by contrast. But I think this game may lean a little too far in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
That said, sometimes I will just load it up to ride around in the Western environment and marvel at how good that thing looks even without a next gen update. Like they did an amazing job here. They pulled some stuff out of those last gen systems that really feels like it shouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, I agree. Mellowax says, I'm still playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I adore that game. Yeah. So there's some people who are still playing.
And the other thing is, like, there's nothing else like it. Like the Western setting is extremely underused in games.
Mellowax says it sold 33 million copies. Is that true?
That sounds about right.
Really?
Yeah, I remember seeing a 30 million figure a while ago.
Wow, I had not seen that at all. I didn't
sold
think it
very,
sold,
very
I didn't
well.
think it sold anywhere near that.
Yeah, it sold very... I mean, nothing sells GTA 5.
I thought the last time I saw it was at 18.
No, I remember seeing a 30 million milestone.
I gotta look now. It's gonna bug the crap out of me. Or maybe someone in chat can look it up. But that's surprising to me. I thought it like got around 15 or 16 and then was like grinding to get to the 18. But
I think maybe it did in its initial like full price level, but I think you could get that for much cheaper later on.
Kevin Raffa says, I thought Red Dead 2 was too realistic. Which could lead, honestly, kind of leads to the boredom a lot of times.
Yeah, and like there's an element of that to like I can definitely see phrasing that in the way that it's like like the way you have to like let him animate through everything, and like you have to watch him bend down to pick everything up and all like that. Yeah, like that. Too realistic is a way to describe that. I would agree with that in that sense.
And our friend Rob Manuel says that this has taught Rockstar to never create another game as a service. Do you believe that?
That's an interesting take. Maybe. I don't know if he knows for sure on that or not.
Yeah,
but,
I think he's just pontificating.
Yeah. I mean, there is an element of like if you think success is GTA Online, why don't even try?
Why bother?
Because you're never going to match that.
Yeah. But that's ludicrous to think.
I mean,
that way,
from
though. Let's be honest.
at the very least, like the theme was never going to reach that many people. Like GTA's theme is just more universal.
Oh yeah, it's rooted in pop culture.
Yeah.
Versus rooted in like 100 years ago.
Western. Well,
Yeah.
also Westerns are not really everyone's favorite thing.
Yeah.
Western movies are still considered a risk because they're it's just not a setting that you see all that much these days.
Oh, Rob Manuel saying that was sarcasm. So use the sarcasm to /S when you're being sarcastic in chat. It'll help us when we're talking about stuff on the show. Jose Holiday says 44 million as of May 2022. I'm gonna have to talk to Pactor about that. He gets the MPD report. I'll see if that's accurate or not. Sometimes he'll give me. He's not supposed to, but sometimes he'll give me numbers, or he'll just like either shake his head no or nod.
The other thing about Rockstar Games as a Service stuff is like I can't imagine what other things they would do. That Bully Online feels like it would be a little sketchy.
Midnight Club obviously would work.
Yeah, Midnight
in some
Club,
way.
sure, but
yeah, Bully doesn't really work.
Big online ping pong league.
Or you just like fist fighting people in the bathroom after school. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think it would work.
What was
But a lot of their IP
Manhunt Online?
Yeah. You think that'll ever come back, Manhunt?
Nah,
I don't either.
I
think that one's done. Yeah. The second one I don't think sold all that well either, honestly.
I forgot there was a second one until you said that.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's the game potpourri from the week. Several topics that weren't big enough to have their own topics, but I thought I would corral them all into one. I guess it ended up being
thematic.
Exactly right in line with Red Dead. Kind of like a revival of the Big Six a little bit. I don't know if you guys remember, but years ago on GameFace, we would start every episode with the Big Six, which would be 6 topics that weren't big enough to have their own topic, and we just go through them. It became impossible to find 6 every week, and we eventually dropped it. But here's a little revival of that classic segment for those of you who are OG sifters who remember the early days of the show. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about that Ubisoft game that I hinted at a couple minutes ago. Skull and Bones, Matt. It's real.
It will not die.
It exists.
Its flag means death.
And it's coming. And it's coming real soon. It's the crazy part. Are you surprised that we're actually going to get Skull and Bones?
I always figured they would eventually like squeeze something out under that title, but I am surprised at how soon it seems to be happening.
Yeah, it's coming out on November 8th on the same day as God of War
One day
Ragnarok.
before.
Oh, the day before?
Is
God of War the
November
9th?
I thought it was November 9th.
It is 9th, you're right.
Yeah.
The day before God of War.
That'll save you.
Smart move.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like they're in competition with it on the other platforms. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's multi-platform, so
Yeah.
it's going to do pretty well. I would think. Well, we'll see if it's going to do
see.
pretty
I don't
well.
know. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll give you a hint, Ubisoft. Our flag means death tie-in. Like seriously. Like that's your fucking gold goose right there.
Yep. Now, people like to say that this game has been delayed and it's been in development for a really long time. It hasn't been as long as at least I remembered. It was actually announced in 2017, so it's been 5 years.
It's half a decade. It's
Not
not
I mean,
nothing.
yeah, it's not nothing. But I think a lot of people assume it's been 8, 9, 10 years.
No,
since...
that's Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Right. Actually, maybe it's longer than that.
Well, if you want to count that that CG sort of teaser thing that was supposed to be
With Paige.
was really more of an example of like the new engine or whatever. I think. I don't think it was supposed to be about a game. It was supposed to like using those characters to do that. But yeah, that was 2008, as I recall.
Yeah. So there you go. That's 14 years.
Yeah.
This one, it's only been 5. But what Ubisoft had been messaging publicly was that what we saw, I think it was it E3 2018 or 2019, where they had like the huge section of its booth where people could play. That was 2019, I think.
I think that was the last one.
The last one. But what Ubisoft has been saying since 2019, E3 2019, is that we've decided to go back and drastically rework the game and make a bunch of changes to it. But Matt, I'll be honest with you, what they just showed this week is pretty much exactly what I played at E3 2019.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to, I mean, unless the stuff is really under the hood in the mechanics, like I don't know what is particularly different.
I can't tell anything that's different from what I played at E3 3-4 years ago at this point. The goal of the game is to try to become the world's most infamous pirate. You start out the game as a shipwreck survivor who washes up on the beach, and that begins your quest to become the captain of the high seas. It is a ship combat-focused online multiplayer game that's based on the same parts of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, except there's a focus on PvE more than PvP.
Good.
You actually have to manually turn on the PvP in this game.
Good.
It's not on by default.
Good.
Yeah. So
I like all of that.
I think a lot of people are looking at this game and they're saying, okay, well, Sea of Thieves is already out there. And so what value does this bring to the table? A lot.
You can play it by yourself.
Right. Well, one, you can play it by yourself, but two, it's way more involved than Sea of Thieves is.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves, I mean, I know they've added a lot of stuff, but like still, it's all very party gamey. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
It's very simple.
Yeah.
And you're
it
right.
feels like if the Jackbox included a pirate game.
Yeah.
It's like,
Now,
I mean, it's gorgeous. The water's great. But like every time I've gone back to try Sea of Thieves again, I'm just like, oh, this feels really shallow.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, you can actually sail ships on your own in Sea of Thieves.
Oh yeah, especially with that
it's
captain
multitasking. And it's
Yeah, but also the captain update thing is going to let you
Yeah.
like solo more of it, which I might go back and try. But I feel like this being, I've played Black Flag and Rogue, and I think that's a good system for a single player ship control thing.
And it's way more in depth.
Yeah.
And the combat's way better. Like the crew recruitment stuff, way better.
And it's not like the graphics are stunning here, but at least they look like people.
Yeah, they're not a cartoon. They're not like a cartoon.
I'm not a huge fan of the cartoon.
Now, there is one huge difference between Sea of Thieves and Skull and Bones, and that is Sea of Thieves, you land places and then you go onto land and fight. Mm-hmm. This game is not like that at all. All the combat and all the action in this game takes place in the ship out on the seas.
Good. The most annoying part of Black Flag is when they make you get off the boat.
Yeah. I don't know if a lot of people would agree with you on that.
I've seen a lot of people agree with me on that. Like people are just like, let me be on the ship. And
I like both parts of Black Flag.
And I got real tired of the on-foot stuff. Because a lot of Black Flag is just following and eavesdropping with people.
Yeah.
Like, those are annoying. You're just sneaking through bushes on plantations, and I don't want to do that. Rogue learned from that, and I would say Black Flag's like maybe 50-50 ship and on foot, and I think Rogue is more like 75-25 in favor of ship. Mm-hmm. Rogue is a great Assassin's Creed game.
It is good.
If you haven't played
kind
the
of a hidden gem
version,
in the franchise.
Yeah, if you haven't played the remastered Rogue, go try that. If you haven't played Rogue at all, it's really good, and it's actually a really interesting main character, being someone who betrays the assassins, mm-hmm. and it gets the closest to an interesting twist on the format back in the day and in the pre-Ancient Trilogy stuff as I think they ever got.
Yeah. Now, there are islands in Skull and Bones, but when you go to them, they're just basically a hub. You get off the ship and you can free roam around in that small kind of town area. But when you go
there will be sea shanties.
But basically they're just a respawn point. You can purchase supplies, you can get ship repair kits, you can buy ammo for your ship, you can buy food to keep the crew morale high.
They're just towns. They're just like towns in an RPG.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what they are. And then also from there you can select missions and prepare for the missions because each mission requires certain things.
I like that everybody's even still got the fucking shoulder capes from Assassin's Creed. Like they're still walking around with the...
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if it will acknowledge Assassin's Creed in any way.
I don't know how you would, unless, like, I guess, because it seems like, I'm sure this does not take place in the Animus. It would be kind of neat if, like, one of the side quests ends up, like, referencing, or if you find, like, an Apple of Eden.
Yeah.
Like, you get, like,
I bet there's some
one
kind
of the
an
caves
Easter
out
egg.
there somewhere is going to have the Forerunner tech in it, or something like that. You know that's in there.
Yeah. Or just, like, a symbol scribbled on a wall, or I think there'll be some kind of an Easter egg.
Yeah.
And you may ask, like, if you don't go on land and fight people like in a normal Assassin's Creed game, how do you get, like, all the resources? Because that's still a big part of this game, crafting and everything. And that actually kind of happens automatically. You get ore, wildlife, and wood and stuff like that automatically while you're out on the water by interacting with what Ubisoft calls resource nodes. So there's these things that you kind of sail up to, interact with them, and they give you your stuff that you then use for the crafting.
They had stuff like that in Rogue.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the main way you got stuff, but you could. There were stuff like that. There was like fishing spots. And
that's
things.
right. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. The basic gameplay loop is you pick a quest at one of the bases or the towns, as we had just talked about. Then you prepare your ship specifically for the mission. So they give you a mission rundown, let you know kind of what armaments you're going to need, how long the trip is going to be, so you know how much food you're going to need on the ship to make sure that there's no mutiny from the crew or anything like that.
Bring oranges.
Yep, yep. And then you can invite friends if you want before you get on your mission. So this is cooperative. Like, you can go on these with other people online. You can go on these missions and complete stuff. And then once you have your crew together, you head out to sea, you complete the mission, and then you return with the loot. Progression in the game is measured in notoriety. And
I like Delfino 109 is like saying, like, you know, they wanted bigger boats than the Black Flag because they feel kind of small. Ships are tiny.
Yeah.
Like the old, like, you know, the Age of Sail, like those are tiny,
they're not
tiny
big
ships. Like, go see some of those old preserved ones. Like they're like not even as big as like your average house, and they got like 40 guys on them. It's ridiculous.
Could you imagine building any sized ship back then with the tools and the technology that you had available?
There's a reason, like, experienced shipwrights were some of the most valuable people in the kingdom.
And also back then, another thing I would add is that they were incapable, and even today, honestly, if you were to build a ship out of wood, you can only build it so long before the physics make it impossible. Because eventually the boat will bow, and it will end up breaking and tearing. Like, they've done a lot of studies on Noah's Ark. And they're like, it's basically impossible to build a Noah's Ark. Even today.
Yeah, it would snap.
It would snap in half because it'd have to be so long.
If it was the size that is dictated.
Right. Yeah. So it's...
Which is partly dictated because it's myth, and it's like, it was this crazy big boat. But like, who's going to go build the big boat?
Yeah.
It's like the Shield helicarrier. No one's going to try to make that.
Right.
There's no way to prove that wouldn't work for most people because they wouldn't try to build and fly a Shield helicarrier, right?
Yeah. Well, there was some guy who tried to build a replica of Noah's Ark.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
In, like, Tennessee.
Yeah, well, you're not going to sail it too many places in Tennessee, are you?
Well, originally, he had wanted to build, like, a ship that they could actually put in the water to prove that Noah's Ark could be real. And as he started building it, he realized that it was impossible.
Yep.
And so now it's just basically an amusement park where people can go and visit this fake Noah's Ark in the middle of nowhere.
Well, let's talk about things that really happened. The Age of Piracy.
But we're explaining why the ships in this game are short.
Yeah, because that's what those ships are shockingly small.
Yeah, but for then they were shockingly gigantic.
The dreadnoughts were amazing at the time, but now you're like, I mean, the ships you go out on cruises, like Disney cruises on, are way bigger than the Titanic.
Yeah,
you know, like ships now are gigantic in a way that like people back then would have just been like the fact you can see a guy like on the mast. Yeah, is like you do. Like you wouldn't be able to see the bottom of the ship if you did that on a modern ship.
That's true.
You've got ships that carry other ships.
Yeah, yeah, or lots of containers.
Yeah.
So notoriety is how you level up. And then as you level up, it unlocks more challenging jobs, new ship types that you can purchase, and new blueprints for crafting. And you're kind of seeing like some of the blueprint stuff
new
here.
Paint jobs, because some of these things are crazy.
They are. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing oceans full of people's ridiculous paint jobs.
Yeah.
Some of these look pretty nuts.
Yeah. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you have to turn on the PvP. It's off by default. So you can just kind of play the game single player if you want to by default. But if you do turn on the PvP and you choose to engage ships, you can, when you're fighting AI ships, you can choose whether or not you want to engage them. So it's kind of like an RPG without random encounters. Like, you can see the ships out there. If you don't go after them and engage, they're not going to come after you and attack you.
I would imagine there will be some that will. If you're
boss ships, I'm guessing.
Boss ships are like, I'm sure if you have enough reputation with one faction or another, like if you're friendly with Spain, I bet England will come after you or something like that.
Yeah. Well, they set up also the combat in a way that you get rightfully rewarded for what you actually do. So if you're a big ship and you go out on the seas and you start attacking all these little ships, you get very little from defeating the little ships. You get like hardly any XP, and it actually could hurt your notoriety in some cases. If you lose to a smaller ship than yours, your notoriety gets destroyed. If you're a small ship and you somehow defeat a larger ship, you get gobs of notoriety. So I think that's a smart way to keep big ships from picking on the little guys all the time, because that also happens in Sea of Thieves. Like if you're out there and you're...
But remember, for some people, the reward is just being a dick.
You're right. So. Yeah, that's all the reward that they need, is just knowing that
that's why it's important that you can turn it on and off.
Yep. Just knowing that they've ruined someone else's good time is enough for some people, sadly. A plunder bar slowly fills over time as you fight, which rewards you with better treasure. You can also plunder beached shipwrecks for mid-mission commodities and repair kits. So if you're in the middle of a mission and you're out of food or you're out of repair kits for your boat, you can sail close to the shore and find these shipwrecks that you can plunder and get resources from. Matt, was that in one of the Assassin's Creed games already? I thought for sure it was. Do you remember anything like that?
What?
Being able to plunder shipwrecks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Like there was like some of them you had to dive for, and some of them you just come across and you could pick them up. And, of course, you also plunder the ships you sank.
Right.
That was a good way to get health back during the middle of a fight.
So you can do that in this game just like you could in the Assassin's Creed games. Combat includes health bars, directional attack arrows, area of effect markers, enemy weak spots on the ships, and there's a yellow boundary marker that denotes how far you can travel before an encounter is ended. In other words, all the stuff that Sea of Thieves is missing in combat, this game has it and then some. So in general, again, going back to what we brought up when we first started talking about this game, people are like, oh, I already have Sea of Thieves, I don't need this. They are really entirely different games.
Yeah.
In tone, and the only thing that's the same is that you play as a pirate in both of them. And that's pretty much it.
It's kind of like Starfield and No Man's Sky.
A little bit, yeah.
Very different takes on the same idea.
Yeah, very, very much so. So in the end, do you view Sea of Thieves as a competitor?
I don't think they view themselves as a competitor.
Yeah, but they don't matter. They're going to say that.
The Sea of Thieves is like, I don't know, Sea of Thieves is ancient and Game Pass. It's not the same.
But I think you wonder if, because you can get it free on Game Pass, if people are going to plunk down money for this then.
I mean, $70 for this is, for any Ubisoft game at this point, is probably a tall order, but I don't think that's anything to do with Sea of Thieves. I think it's Ubisoft's getting in their own way in that regard. I mean, I'm interested. Although, frankly, right now, I'm probably more likely to just go play Assassin's Creed Rogue right now.
I'm excited for this game because it's another big game to play and talk about on the show.
Well, also, like, the other sad thing is, like, I'm interested, but, like, it's a day before God of War.
It is.
Like, God of War is going to go launch. I'll get to you in a couple weeks, I guess.
Well, think about that week for us. We're gonna have to juggle between these two games.
There are also rumors that Elden Ring might have some DLC coming around.
Oh, really? Oh, Lord. That's good. That's a good problem to have in 2022, let me tell you.
Look at that lunatic in the red, white, and blue ship there. I like that. I want to see more of that.
It's hard to say that I'm like more excited for this game now that it's reemerged because, again, as I said earlier, it's exactly what I saw. Like 3 years ago. I have no idea. I feel like Ubisoft may have internally canceled this game.
That would match some things I'd heard over the course of the time.
And
kind of
they realize, oh my gosh, we have a 12-month period with very little games to release. We got to do something.
I don't think it was that short term, but I do think there was a point where it's like, well, we need more stuff on the schedule, and we don't know what to do. And Watch Dogs isn't doing. I think there was just a point where like, well, this thing's pretty much along the way. Let's just finish it. And I think a similar thing happened with Beyond Good and Evil 2, which I know was not being worked on for a while.
Yeah,
but now seems to be back in some form.
You may be right. Now, no Assassin's Creed this year. Does this fill the void for people who are big Creed fans?
We'll see.
So I'm wondering if Creed fans are fans of this or if they're fans of Assassin's Creed.
I think people are fans of like the historical aspect. So like, at the very least, it'll be of interest. I don't know if it'll be appealing to everyone, because some people probably want to sneak up and stab somebody. But like, I think this is sort of, look, here's a historically based game with one of the most well-loved gameplay aspects of the Assassin's Creed franchise, with no Animus stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's what a lot of people have been begging for. So I think it's a solid idea. I just don't know if, has it been too long? Is it not a thing anyone cares about? Are people going to be like, oh, wait, you can't fight on the ships? Like, that's weird. Like, like there is an element of like that was fun in the Assassin's Creeds where like, I like doing the ship combat, but I also like swinging over onto the other ship and stabbing
once you've disabled the ship, going in and finishing off the crew. Yeah.
Like this is, just being pure ship to ship stuff is a little, maybe might feel a little sterile.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Or limited.
Yeah. But we'll see. Also, like, if it's successful, I have a very hard time believing they would not add some on foot combat stuff later on. Like, feels like you could probably do it, because it looks like it's just using, Assassin's Creed.
Oh, it's definitely the same engine.
Yeah, I think you could throw that in later if it became in demand.
That seems like it would be a lot of work. To me, they would probably just try to get the new Assassin's Creed done more quickly than trying to staple something like that onto this game. But
it depends how successful this is. I mean, they do support these things. For Honor's still going.
It is, yeah.
Like, they support stuff for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, look at Rainbow Six Siege.
Not Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah. Ubisoft does support games for a really long time, unless they're free to play. Yeah. And that seems to be where Ubisoft will draw the line. I do not expect this game to sell as well as a typical Assassin's Creed.
No, I would be surprised.
Yeah, I think it'll probably sell half.
This is not a 10 million seller.
No, this is 5 if it does real well. Like if it sells 5, I think Ubisoft will be over the moon for something that I really thought that had been canceled.
Yeah. Well, especially because it feels like something. It feels like it's here because otherwise they don't have anything on the schedule.
Yeah.
Because for a while, certainly near the tail end of 2020, like everyone was after Valhalla came out. I remember a couple of Ubisoft people I knew who aren't there anymore, but they're like nobody has any idea what we're doing next. Like it's like there's no plan, there's no schedule. Like they don't know what to make, and it's just like that's bizarre. Like they sort of hit this point where they didn't know where to go, and like that's so now you got no Assassin's Creed for a year. Valhalla is being propped up like a dried corpse in a sideshow at this point. Like
they've milked it for all it's worth.
Yeah,
for more than it's worth, in my opinion.
Yeah, I liked Valhalla, but I am definitely done.
I'm ready to move on. Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward to Infinite or Infinity or whatever it is. Platformy thing is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there you go. That's Skull and Bones. Again, it's coming out November 8th. It is for
everything. Well, not Switch. Bro.
Is it? It is last gen. Yeah. So you can get PS4 and Xbox One versions of this, and no Switch and PC. Yeah. November 8th, just the day before God of War. I wish it luck. Really think they could have even just waited a week or two, or come out a week or two before that.
I mean, it is
awful
what it is.
Brave, but I mean, truth be told, they had made that plan, and I think literally the same day or the next day, God of War's release date was announced. So
yeah, I don't think this was like two independent things happening at once. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, you can't sit around waiting for everybody else to announce their release dates forever.
Yeah,
but I'm sure Ubisoft was like, "Oh man, really?
Well, release
the day
thing.
after,
put out the trailer." God damn it.
Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's Skull and Bones. We haven't talked about that game probably since E3 2019.
Oh, we've talked about it a couple times.
Have we?
Just in the passing of Ubisoft, like where is it? Kind of thing. But not like a specific dedicated thing
segment to it. So I will say Ubisoft, for whatever reason, it does tend to just keep its projects around. Wasn't there some kind of special deal it had with the government and something with this game? I thought there was.
I mean, it's Canada, so probably there's some kind of, tax break because of where it's developed. Or, there's a lot of that stuff in Quebec, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not clear on any of that. I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't help me.
Nope. All I care about is if the game is good or not. And that's all you should care about, too. All right, let's move along. We're going to talk next about Hideo Kojima. Kojima had a rough week this week, Matt.
Yeah.
So, this is just insane. I never would have guessed. On my bingo card, I would never have had this. But this week, Hideo Kojima was basically, I guess the best way to sum it up was, he was trolled by 4chan. Mm-hmm. So, this is so terrible. So, some moron on 4chan, and 4chan's full of morons, so take your pick, decided that he was going to share that the person who killed the former Prime Minister of Japan, Abe, was Hideo Kojima. And this idiot posted...
But that would be a really good twist in a Metal Gear game.
It would be. Kojima couldn't have written this.
No. It's too interesting.
Yeah. So, someone on 4chan posted on 4chan that, hey, the person who killed the former Prime Minister of Japan was the creator of Metal Gear Solid, Hideo Kojima. And he posted a couple photos that had, I think there was one that had Kojima with that Cuban leader. Mm-hmm. What's his name?
I can't remember.
I can't remember his name either.
I saw that, but yeah.
But he basically found photos of Kojima wearing clothing or being around things that might lead someone to believe that the story could be true, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, and in the wake of things like that, people will just latch onto whatever and run with it. No one checks anything.
Well, most people do check stuff.
Most people do not.
Well,
I see it constantly.
Well, what I'm hinting at is that most people who are public figures would look into something before falling prey to it.
Oh, yeah, the press and stuff.
Right. However, a French far-right politician named Damien Rieu, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his last name, and I apologize if I am, picked it up and retweeted it as if it were fact. And off it went. So he's a politician. So once this happened, stories ran in both Iran and one other country, Greece, where I'm headed in a couple months. In Greece, that said this popular video game developer killed
that was the
Abe.
That was the weirdest thing. Was it wasn't just this is the person who did it and he's some random Japanese man. It was Hideo Kojima himself did it. It was that was the weirdest thing to me, was that it wasn't you're just gonna put up a picture of a Japanese person and people are gonna not know who he is because no one knows outside of gaming who Hideo Kojima is and be oh, that's him. It was literally creator of Metal Gear Solid is an assassin, which is bizarre that anyone would run with that. Why? And I've seen weird things like that. People do that. It seems like they do that with Kojima sometimes. I've also seen from right-wing Christian circles, it was an anti-abortion thing, and it's a picture of him with this, I think it's a fan, a woman who's a fan. They're holding the plastic replica of the baby, in the jar from Death Stranding, and it's this couple decided to abort their baby and
put it in a plastic jar
to do all this, and it's just what? And but you see that still float around sometimes.
I hate to laugh at that because that is just awful. Also, the original joke on 4chan is a racist joke.
Yeah,
he's basically insinuating look, I can tell you that this guy did this, and some people may know that that's absurd, but we all think Japanese people all look the same, so I can tell you that this guy is him, and you're going to believe it was gross. Ultimately, it was gross. And then this far-right French politician retweeted it, got picked up in news sources, a couple newscasts over in Europe. It's awful. Kojima Productions has threatened legal action against those who contribute to the, quote, spread of fake news and rumors that convey false information, end quote. And then the official statement from Kojima Productions.
You probably do have some kind of libel case in there.
Libel, slander, something along those lines?
Slander spoken.
Yeah.
It's libel.
Yeah. Kojima Productions strongly condemns the spread of fake news and rumors that convey false information. We do not tolerate such libel, they call it, and will consider taking legal action in some cases. Does it have a case?
I think they do.
I do too.
Yeah. I mean, you have to figure out who's doing it.
Yeah.
The anonymity of the origin makes it difficult. But yeah, I think you absolutely have a libel case there.
Think about it. Think about if everybody thought you were the person who killed.
Maybe different if it was just a random picture that started getting circulated, but it was clearly like trying to attach his name to the assassin. So that is an attack on his character, and it is an actual libel case.
Yeah.
If you can find the guy who started it.
Do you need to
find
the guy who started it at 4chan, or can you go after Damien Ryu?
You could go after him too, but ultimately you would probably want the guy who started it if you want ultimate justice.
Well, you do want the guy who started it, but ultimately it's the politician that is the reason why it ended up on news broadcasts.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely him and whoever ran with it in the press and all. He
handed the story legitimacy.
Yeah,
when a public figure like that basically retweets something, endorses something.
Like, I think if he hadn't done that, you probably wouldn't have much of a case against like the 4chan guy. But in this case, now that it all ballooned, you probably could loop that in. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if there's even any way to tell who posted that on 4chan. So
4chan, is never going to give that up.
Yeah,
they will never ever give up the person who.
Well, and also I don't know if that's even possible to trace.
Yeah, like, I'll be honest with you.
Designed to not be traceable.
Like, we designed Sifted in a way that we can't track people. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't know who people are, but we did it that way on purpose. We wanted to protect people's privacy, and we didn't want people to worry about us selling their information or whatever. It's like, you see all these websites, and by the way, can Eurogamer, like, get rid of the freaking cookies thing? It has literally been on its website for like a year and a half now. But, so you see all these websites that say, you need to tell us whether you want us to sell your information. We don't have to run that on Sifted because we do not sell your information at all. We don't even have your information. You are anonymous on our website. And I'm guessing 4chan probably was set up the same way. And even if it wasn't, there's no way the people who run 4chan are going to give up any information from those people. You'd have to subpoena them, and they fight the subpoena and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, the problem becomes, is it worth it?
For what?
For Kojima to even, or do you just want it to go away? And I feel like
people
worth it prey on this.
I think it's worth it for him to go after the people who circulated it as news. Like, you have to do that.
Yeah.
Basically.
You need to send a cease and desist to the news networks.
Well, C&D's not going to. You need to sue for damages at this point.
The TV network, because the TV networks did not do their due diligence.
Yeah. Like, at those you have very, very clear cut. You did not do the work on that. And that's irresponsible and damaging to Kojima.
Yeah, I don't care who retweeted it. It's your job.
Again, it would be different if they were just using a picture of him.
Right.
But they were using his name in conjunction with the picture of him, and that makes it different.
Yeah. The guy, by the way, looks nothing like Kojima.
No, of course not.
It's really sad. But I feel like a lot of people get away with this stuff because they know the person that they're targeting will just want it to go away. Two, if they live overseas or whatever, you start dealing with jurisdictions. It becomes very hard to prosecute. The cost of the lawyers. Like, most people, I feel like, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of stuff about me online that's straight up lies that just aren't true. There's tons of stuff on NeoGAF that was written about me that's literally just lies. But am I going to go to NeoGAF and get a law? Why? It's not worth it.
Yeah, but NeoGAF is not a press outlet.
Is it not?
No. It's not an accredited news organization, no. It's not a news station.
I don't think news organizations are accredited. I don't think that's a thing. Because Fox News isn't news.
They have a broadcast license.
But they still call it Fox News.
Yeah, but they have a broadcast license. They are a functioning business that traffics in news reporting, a reportage, ostensibly. But these places that we'd be going after in Greece and Iran and stuff are actual, news outlets.
But then you see other examples.
NeoGAF is a forum. It's nothing. It'd be very hard to track that down.
It's not even talking about tracking. It's just any website that allows false information to run on their website is liable. But it's not worth the effort and the time and the money.
It's worth the effort to go after the news outlets.
Yeah.
That did that. Who should know better. It's their job to know better. Mm-hmm. And that's that. And Kojima is media savvy enough to know that he'll pursue that to the end, I think. Mm-hmm. For God's sake, that's practically what Metal Gear Solid 2 is about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How ironic, oddly enough.
It's disinformation being fed to people to turn them into good little soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
That's basically the big reveal of Metal Gear Solid 2.
But I do feel like a lot of people get away with this stuff because they know that people are just going to be like, whatever.
Oh, sure. But also in this case, I don't think whoever posted on 4chan thought it was going to become international news.
I think that they
think that was
they
just
delighted in the fact that it did.
Oh yeah, but I don't think that was their expectation. It was a bonus. But the
I
people,
think they hoped that
but
that
the
would be
people
the
who
case.
called, I mean, they thought it would go viral, and I don't think they expected actual news organizations to report it as news.
Yeah.
But the fact that happened means you got to go do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they won't do it again.
Right. Yeah.
That's all. That's what it is. Like, there has to be consequences, so they actually vet the next fucking picture of a random person who might be an assassin.
But the guy on 4chan is gonna do it again. Like, there's no detriment to him.
Right, but that guy does that every day.
Yeah.
It's just this one time
This one
it
actually
blew up.
hit. Yeah.
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 Well, we got a hit tweet doing numbers. Like, that's it. That's all it is. You can't stop that. You can just make the people that disseminate the information beyond that have to act responsibly.
Yeah. It's bad. It's a bad situation. When somebody can get away with what they did to Kojima, it's a bad situation.
I would still kind of argue that, like, it's more the people that, the prominent figures that promoted it as real that are more responsible than the person who created it, because the person who created it is along with the anonymous throngs of 4chan who create nonsense like that every day, and you never see any of it because it never leaves the confines of 4chan for the most part. But in this case, somebody decided to treat it as valid and not do the homework.
And let's be honest, Twitter. I believe half the content on Twitter are lies. They're political lies.
A lot of, well, I mean, that's with all
that are easily provable to be false.
That's what the bot thing is.
But
all
to your
about.
point,
that ties in with Elon backing out of buying Twitter.
Yeah,
is like he didn't realize how much of it is garbage,
which is a total lie. Like, that's not why he's backing out.
No, that's not why he's backing out. He just wanted to do damage to it.
He's backing out because his company's lost 30% of its value.
But it's also noteworthy that Twitter was so reticent to share any of that.
Yeah.
Like, they know.
Yeah.
They know what it is.
Well, it's like, half the people that follow Joe Biden's account are bots.
Yeah.
They are. Because they just want to spam every tweet that he tweets with lies and propaganda.
Just about any public figure has that.
A lot of their followers are bots.
Mm-hmm.
That's why bots are created, to mess with accounts like that. That's just the way it is. So this stuff, you're right. To your point about 4chan, it's something that's happening a million times a day on 4chan. You're right. It's also happening a million times a day on Twitter at the same time. And again, to your point, most journalists are smart enough to go on Twitter and not run outrageous tweets from idiots. Mm-hmm. And in this case, that did not happen.
No, I mean, this is sort of akin to, what happened with the Sandy Hook parents suing Alex Jones.
Right.
You can't just lie about this shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can, though. This 4chan guy is going to get away with it. People get away with it all day on Twitter.
Right, but they're not news reporters. They're not people,
Is Alex Jones news?
He promotes himself as being, yeah.
Does he?
He claims he is. unless he's up at his fucking, child custody hearing in which his lawyer says, no, it's all an act and he's playing a character.
Right.
And then he gets up and says, no, it's all real.
Well, the other thing I was getting at earlier is that if you're someone like Kojima and you're thinking about whether you want to go forward with this, and you look at what's happened with other TV networks, it's discouraging. Because look at what happens every time Fox News gets taken to court. The lawyer argues that and this is the exact verbiage that they use, that no reasonable person would believe anything that Tucker Carlson says, or any of their other hosts.
Well, there you run into the problem of reasonable people.
Right, but my point is, if you're Kojima and you're sitting there, and you look at someone like Tucker Carlson, who can use that lame-ass argument to get out of all the stuff that he says that's, in all honesty, dangerous, and is sometimes convinces people to become violent. If he can get away with that excuse, all these other people are going to get away with it too.
Except no, because you're not dealing with the American court system.
You mean if you go into other countries? If you're suing
Greece, a station in Greece, you are dealing with the Grecian court system and possibly part of the Japanese one. Like, you are not, like, you can't judge the whole world's legal practices by the horribly lopsided American legal system. Like,
but then all this other stuff enters. It's like, okay, but now you're dealing with Greece, like their court system. Like, is it any better than America's? Probably not. Really?
Probably, yeah. Now, yeah, probably.
How about Iran?
Iran, I don't know what you can do there.
I
don't even know what kind of liability a news network has in Iran.
Probably none.
I don't know a lot about that.
Because, I mean, it's all state media anyway.
I don't know about that.
Iran?
Yeah.
It's pretty much, yes, it's all state media. It's run by the state. Yeah. There's not real news in Iran.
It kind of, yeah. Like, there's real stuff that runs.
I mean,
there.
there's Al Jazeera.
I don't know which one did this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, certainly it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, also libel laws are different in every country. I mean, I think Greece probably has to abide by whatever the EU is.
Yeah. It just feels like there's no way to stop this.
There isn't.
Yeah.
You can just
It's just something you got to deal with.
You can put the fires out as they happen. That's it. You can't stop it from happening.
Yeah.
It's
frustrating.
It's life.
It was frustrating for me seeing people write stuff that wasn't true. And it was funny, like when I first started working online, one of my younger sisters was like, oh my gosh, when she kind of figured out that like I had a following online, she would start poking around to see what people were saying about me. And like I can't even remember what forum it was, but she found some forum where somebody had just posted a complete lie about me that was completely untrue, just completely made up, fabricated nonsense. And she went off. Like she wrote like this 5-paragraph diatribe about, you don't know him, he's my brother, he's like the best guy, you wouldn't know the stuff that he's done for our family, and went on this tirade. And I had to like call her, I'm like, Angel, don't. Like, don't do it. It's not good for you, it's not going to do anything, you're not going to stop anything, it's just a part of my life that I have to deal with. And she is like, that is insane. And I was like, it is. That's life working online. But here's the thing, like, I'm not asking for pity. This is a contract that you sign with yourself when you, at this point in the modern age, that you sign with yourself when you put yourself out there. When you decide, I'm going to sit on camera and do a podcast, or I'm going to sit on camera and do anything, you know that this stuff is going to happen. So I don't cry about it. I don't moan and complain and say, poor me or whatever. Everybody else who is doing this stuff is dealing with the same crap. And so if you don't want to deal with the crap, then don't do this. Because it's part of the deal. It just is. And that's what I told her. I'm like, it's part of the thing. Like, I knew it when I started working in this space. This kind of stuff was going to happen. And I'm sure to a certain extent, Kojima knows that. And Kojima has dealt with it. But
I don't think he ever expected to be accused by foreign press that he assassanated a former prime minister.
Right.
And this is a little beyond the usual
It is. You're
thing.
right. And culture in Japan is different, too. They are very, like, honor and things like that. It's something we care about here. Honor drives society in a lot of ways in Japan. At least it used to. Maybe not so much anymore. But it's a bigger deal, stuff like this in Japan, than it is here. So I can understand where he may be more apt to actually go after these.
Also, he's got the resources to do it.
Right. He has the money.
That's the other thing that like a lot of people get picked on in that regard. Or have these things happen, do not have that recourse. But Kojima is A, very media savvy, and B, well connected and well funded, and can pursue this as far as he wants to pursue it.
Yep.
So we'll see.
Yeah, so this sucks. I feel bad for Kojima. And, Matt and I, we're not big Kojima cheerleaders. Like, we're not Kojima fanboys, so to speak. We are very...
But I'm pretty sure he wouldn't kill anybody.
Right,
so.
yeah. But my point is like, I feel bad for the guy.
Like, I feel like
I'm not, like, a big fan of his.
He might write that scene where a guy with a homemade gun shoots a politician. Like, that... It was very Metal Gear in a weird way.
Uh-huh.
If it only had been made out of nanomachines, we would have had a real thing. But like, it's a bizarre.
It's bizarre
situation.
I can't remember another story like this in the industry. Can you?
A major developer being accused of assassinating a political
prime
figure?
minister?
No, that's a new one on me. Peter Molyneux has yet to do that, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't know about Blazinski.
Yeah.
Blazinski might have done some shit.
Sneaky says, Shane, I read that you faked the robbery at the last studio and sold all the stolen stuff to go on a holiday to Hawaii with Marcus for a month. I think he's making that up. But he may have read it. Like,
that would have been an awkward holiday at the time.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, that is the type of stuff that for people like us, people make up about us. It's not us killing a prime minister. It's stuff like that. It's like, Shane didn't really get robbed. This is a scam.
Well, there's a lot of people that think this is a scam, and this person is taking that mistake, and then they turn around and think Star Citizen is legitimate. You know?
Yeah.
It's just like, guys.
I mean, to be honest with Sneaky, I did kind of have to explain to people. There were some people that did not believe the story. Mm-hmm. And I did have to explain to people. Some people were asking for the police report and stuff like that. And at a certain point, you have to just cut it off and be like, you know what? If you don't believe me, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Oh, Shiniki isn't making it up. Apparently you were accused of that in a thread after the Cyberpunk thing.
Oh, okay.
That got real weird.
That did get weird. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. There you go. It was a hate thread full of bollocks. That's what I'm talking about. Like, there's so much fake stuff about me on the internet. Just made up, completely fabricated bullshit. But there's a lot of people like me that work online, that there's stuff like that all over the place. It's just the way it is. So I just take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I haven't had a lot of that I've seen. I don't really care. But I do remember I got my first death threat for, what was it? I think because I gave Force Unleashed a 4 out of 5. Something like that.
Really? You gave the Force Unleashed a 4?
I think so. Maybe it was a 3.
And they were mad that you scored it too high
low.
or too low? Too low.
Too low.
Wow.
They very much believed it was one of the best games ever made.
Wow.
Which, play more games.
That's crazy. Yep, good times. As Johnny Hurricane says, fun times in the land of gaming. Yeah, it is kind of weird how this thing, for me, when I was young...
Oh, no, sorry. My first death threat was when I gave Vice City a 4 out of 5. That's it.
I could see
I
that
got the
one.
most for
I mean,
Force
not saying you
Unleashed.
deserve death threats, but I could see where that would make people send stuff like that. The unhinged folks among us.
Oh, we had a few of those.
I mean, they're there
They
still.
took a break from sending horrible emails to Morgan to send
Just to
me.
attack you for a while. Yeah. Yeah, it is funny that this thing that I always viewed as so innocent as a kid growing up and dreaming of maybe working in this industry somehow, it ended up like this. I mean, it's pretty bizarre.
I mean, nothing ruins things like people.
There's your quote for GameFace 307. Nothing ruins things like people. It's sadly the truth. It looks like most people, though, are like, this is one of those things that, like, most people don't have to deal with, honestly. Like, the lay person who doesn't work in this industry or isn't putting themselves out there on streams or, pre-produced video content on YouTube, they never have to deal with this kind of stuff. I think it's hard for some of them to relate. Which is, and again, another reason why I try to just, I don't know. I try to be as even-keeled as possible and not get too bent out of shape over this stuff, like the stuff that Sneaky was talking about. Like, I didn't even see that stuff. I don't even go on forums anymore, honestly. I can't even tell you the last time I went, other than our forums. I can tell you the last time I went to a gaming forum. It's been 6 years, maybe.
Yeah,
like, if I use Sifted, I have
there
no
aren't-
reason
I mean,
to
there
go.
aren't really forums much anymore.
Well, there's Reset Era now.
Yeah.
Which kind of took over for NeoGAF.
Resetera,
Or whatever.
apparently.
Is that how you're supposed to say it?
You're supposed to say it, Resetera.
Yeah. But I've never even signed up for an account there, ever. I'm not even a member there. I don't need a forum if I have Sifted. Sifted is like a glorified forum that gives me everything that I need. So I just haven't gone. Yeah, it's crazy. Totemish, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome, man. Yep. Everyone gets it. I know a small streamer who's always accused she used to be a man. People screenshotting her crotch and discussing on Reddit. Yep. That's where we're at.
There's a lot of deranged people that are like, oh, like I've seen a lot of that. Where it's like there was some woman that went viral who was like, she just puts like everyone I knew in college was secretly a man pretending to be a woman, and like look at these people in line at Starbucks and like their shoulders are too wide in comparison to their hips, so they're clearly trans people. Like she thinks everyone's a secret trans person trying to. I'm like. There's something wrong with you. Like these are the same. These are the same people who thought like they were being gang stalked 15 years ago, or
and
like
they think everyone else is the insane.
or that
one.
everybody's a lizard person with like sideways eyelids, and it's the same thing. It's just like it's some kind of untreated mental illness that is driving them into this weird fantasy world.
It is bizarre. Yep. I'm glad you're sane.
And they're being encouraged by people like that 4chan guy who are just like putting this crap out.
Yeah, and then they see something like this happen. And it gets them even more hyped to do it. It's like, that could be me. I could be the one.
Well, my favorite was people that's like, see, gun laws don't work. And I'm like, yeah, that's the second death in Japan from a gun this year. And we had like 260 this weekend.
Yeah.
Like, there's a difference here.
When you build your own gun out of PVC pipe.
How about this? If any instance of breaking the law means you shouldn't have the law, time to get rid of the speed limit.
Everything.
And you're welcome, because that was me.
Yeah, DUI. Like,
Yeah.
it goes. It's the
Oh,
whole
someone drove drunk
idiotic.
anyway, even though it's illegal? Time to get rid of that law.
Yeah, the whole
Like,
argument's
it's ridiculous.
idiotic. But
like that's the
That's
same.
where we're-
but
that's
it's
where
also.
we're at.
But you're dealing with the same kind of people who
No, you're right.
who don't check these things and don't care if it's true. They
Yeah.
just think it's interesting, or they think it's the more fun way to see reality. I don't know anymore.
I mean, there
I
are
don't know.
people who really believe that stuff is true.
Oh, sure.
There are people that think
There
that,
are always useful idiots. Shane.
there are people that think people drink baby's blood and that JFK Jr.'s coming back from the dead. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. People will believe. There's large groups of people that will believe anything.
Any day now.
Yeah. Hilarious. Okay. let's move on.
Can't wait to see you, Junior.
He'd be what, 100 now or something? Or no, his dad would be 100.
His dad would be very old. Yeah, no, JFK Jr. would be 60,
70
something.
60, 70, something like that.
He could theoretically still have been around if he didn't die already.
What are you talking about, Matt? He didn't die. He's just been hanging out somewhere for.
JFK Jr. didn't die. He just went home. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the worst sports game I've played in possibly my entire life.
JFK Jr. Tennis Championship.
We're going to talk about Matchpoint Tennis Championship. Honestly, it's the first tennis game that's been released in quite a while. There's one other series that's been released in tennis games that are also terrible. And this one just kind of snuck in here out of nowhere. But that's the kind of week that we've had in video game releases, and it's my job to jump on the grenades, and boy, did I ever jump on one. The irony of this to me, Matt, is that tennis is the first ever video game genre. It is the longest running genre in the video game industry. Pong was the first ever video game.
Technically, it's space combat, because the first game was computer space.
Yeah.
Pong was the first coin-op game.
I thought...
Computer space was being played on big mainframes even before Pong.
Pong was the first one that was put in public, right?
Yes.
Or was that other one put in public? It won, like, bar or something.
No, it became Space War. There was a version of Computer Space that became Space War and was on Atari 2600 and was like, one of those like consoles that only played one game. You could get one of those. Mm-hmm. But no, the first coin-op video game was Pong.
Okay.
In Andy Capp's in Menlo Park, up where I'm from. And but before that, computer space goes back to punch card computers, and then when you had a screen, you had very rudimentary graphics for it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, computer space is a little bit older.
Yep.
But Pong is the first one that people dumped quarters into, and that was famously like after a day or two, the restaurant called them and was like, it broke. Like, it's broken. Like, can you come fix it? So they went to fix it.
It was all full of quarters.
It was jam full of quarters. It couldn't hold any more quarters. Like, it was, and they realized, like, oh, wait a minute.
It's a great story. Yeah. So here we are, so many years later, and there are still tennis video games, although not as many as you might expect. And here comes Matchpoint Tennis Championship. It features 18 real pros. It's supposed to, but they are like the bottom of the Pro Tour barrel. Nick Kyrgios, I think that's how you say his last name. He just made a big fuss about himself at Wimbledon. He got in this
he refuses to vaccinate.
What'd you say? No, that's Jovic, who's like the best tennis player in the world. This guy is actually ended up just playing Jovic in the Wimbledon finals after Nadal dropped out of his prior match because he was injured. But this guy, earlier at Wimbledon, got in this weird match with this guy where they were, like, sniping at each other and, like, intentionally, like, hitting balls into the crowd. Like, they both ended up acting like 5-year-olds or whatever. But anyway, this guy, Nick Kyrgios, is the cover athlete for this game and really the only recognizable pro player in this game. All the other guys, I was like, who the hell are these people? I didn't recognize, like, any of them. So there are licensed players in this, just not the ones that you would expect and not the ones that you actually care about. There's also licensed gear, and you see all the signage around the court for all these brands. So you think, this game has like a bunch of licensed content. The only licensed content in this game are on the pros. So the pros wear it. However, you cannot put it on your character.
No Uniqlo, no go.
Which means that the developer, the publisher of this, was like, no, we'll have to pay a lot of money to let the player put Nike on their player, but if the player is already sponsored by Nike, we can kind of piggyback on that agreement, and we can get that into the game that way. But you cannot actually use the licensed equipment and gear yourself. It is only for them.
Yeah, so like there might have already been a deal there where like if you license the player, they have to be wearing their branded gear as part of their contract.
Right.
But you don't have to worry. That's That's sketchy.
That's what we're talking about here, Matt.
That's too bad because I do like tennis video games once in a while. I like Top Spin and I like Virtua Tennis. Isn't another Virtua Tennis coming?
I thought
a new Sega. I thought a new Top Spin or a new Sega Tennis.
I'm not aware of them. There was another like indie tennis game that's come out a couple times over the last like 6 years or so. but it's not good either. And this is also not good. The reason tennis video games still have a market is because it's fundamentally so easy to enjoy. Everyone understands how tennis works. It's like it's not complicated as far as sports go. Now, the scoring in tennis is a little confusing to people, but if you just keep winning points, you're going to win at tennis, and people get that. And so I do think that's why it has continued to have some semblance of popularity, although I would argue must not be that popular because we're not really getting tennis video games that much anymore. Vincent just said that's AO Tennis, yeah, in Tennis World Tour. That AO Tennis was the one that I was thinking of. So they do try to do one thing in this game that is different from most tennis games, but otherwise, this game is very, very simple. And the one thing that they do, or they try to do, is that each opponent has strengths and weaknesses. And as you're playing them, the game will pop up with these windows sharing a weakness of your opponent. And it's not like you expose the weakness with a point or something like that, or a volley, and they do a poor job hitting it back, and they're like, oh, he's not good with his backhand. They just pop up randomly. And it happens while you're playing. A lot of times, I can't even read what the weakness is because you can't take your eyeballs off the screen because you're playing freaking tennis. So these things will pop up and they'll say, oh, he's really bad returning lobs, or he's really horrible on his backhand. And it really seems like a cool idea until you actually try to exploit the weakness. So I got an alert that I actually managed to read before it disappeared that said my opponent was terrible on the backhand. So I literally peppered him with 10 straight shots that made him return it on his backhand, and he returned every single one. It's all BS. They try to tell you these players have weaknesses. They do not have those weaknesses at all. At least not that I could find to exploit anyway, which is just crazy. That's, to me, it's almost like false advertising.
That?
What happened?
Like, you went for a smash because he lobbed it up at you, and like the ball like fell past you and then jumped back up to your racket and then smash. Like, the animation on it just went wild.
Dude, there are, like, sometimes it'll actually cut away between points, and like players just teleport. Their animations are all weird and awkward.
I already saw one of them just sort of walking in place against the edge of the court.
Right there. Watch, the player just slides after this point. He just slides to the right. Like, you're watching the replay, and eventually he just slides. He moves like 3 feet. Watch this. And this stuff happens all the time. First of all, it's poorly framed. He's not even in the center of the frame. Now watch.
Zoop. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Just recentered him to the position.
Yeah. He just basically warped to the position that the game.
Like, why wouldn't you just have him walk there?
Yeah, but I mean, those cutaways, the players aren't even centered in the camera. They're like, you can barely see like their chest.
Yeah, like, you'd fire a camera guy that couldn't get that shot.
It's bad.
Is that chugging?
Yes.
Is that the?
No, this is actually the game. It does chug at times. Yeah.
How?
It's not like a B-roll issue. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know, man.
How do you suddenly get unexpected load in a...
Because this engine is crap.
Wow.
Look at it.
Look at me. Look at the guy who looks just like you in the background.
Oh, yeah. So there's like 10 faces in this game. I'm not exaggerating. Like 10 faces. So the guy that I'm playing against right now, the next match I played, his face was on one of the line judges standing behind the player. Like, the faces just get completely reused over and over again. This game is a disaster. The game itself is very simple. You have all the face buttons are basically your different types of shots. So I played it on PS5. The triangle is your lob shot. The square is the backspin, and the circle is topspin, and then X is just your flat shots. But here's the thing about this game. When you first start playing it, and the B-roll you're seeing right now is literally me playing the first match that I ever played in this game. Eventually, what I figured out was you don't even watch the ball. When your opponent hits the ball to you, all you have to do is just tip the analog stick either left or right, and your player just automatically runs to the spot. And then what you're supposed to do is load up your shot, and once you hit the shot button, a little cursor will appear on the other side of the court where you can place your shots. And after you get good at this game, you don't even watch anything. You tap the stick in the direction the shot is going, hit whatever shot you want, whether it's topspin, backspin, or whatever, hold the button, the cursor appears, and then you just place that cursor where you want the ball to go and release the shot, and it goes exactly. No matter what your player's ratings are, that shot always goes right to that blade of grass that you leave the cursor on. And once I got good at this game, the game's just dragged on forever. Forever. Nobody could ever get a winning shot after a while. Like the computer, I could beat the computer, like, I just destroyed the computer after a while. And I got sick of that. I went online and played against humans, and it literally lasted forever. I never finished an online game. Because each rally, I'm not exaggerating, Matt, would last like 3 minutes before somebody could get a winning shot past you. Because, again, your player, and online, they equal everyone's stats, so it doesn't matter how fast your guy can run. He always gets to the ball, and it's just a matter of getting that cursor in the right spot, releasing that shot button, and every single time, you're going to put it right on the money. The game also can't tell when shots are inbounds or out of bounds. Blatant shots out of bounds, they call inbounds in this. You can see it with your bare eye. Clear as day. There's no umpire in the game. There's none of it. There's no interaction between your player and the other player. They don't shake hands after a match. They don't even act like each other exists. They don't interact with the umpire. The umpire makes no calls. When a ball is close to the line, they don't show the replay like they do in real tennis where it shows like the ball mark on the line, because it's all automatic now. They have line judges, but they don't really need them. None of that is in the game. It doesn't even exist. It's like it doesn't exist in real tennis. It's crazy. I cannot believe they released this game in this state. Yes, you can't challenge calls. Even if a ball's blatantly out and they call it in, there's no challenges, there's none of that. The career mode is basically just a bunch of menus that take you from one fake tournament or exhibition to another. They have no licensed tournaments in this, so there's no Wimbledon or the US Open or any of the big tournaments that tennis fans love. There's none of that stuff. The career mode is just like one event after another that you've never heard of. And there are requirements for them, but again, you're playing the computer. It's just a means to an end, because literally, I think I win most of the matches like 6-love, 6-love. Like, it's very rare that the computer ever even gets a point against me once I learned how to actually play the game. So the career mode's a complete joke. None of it's licensed. None of it matters. The courts don't play different. You play on a clay court. I couldn't tell any difference in the physics between playing on grass or clay or a hard court. The ball bounced the same. It all played the same. As you've seen in this B-roll, the presentation is like completely low rent. The cutaways are awkward. The players don't interact with each other. You win tournaments or a match, there's no cutscene that shows you winning anything. There's no trophy presentation. It just goes to this static screen that says you won or you lost and has some stats. And that's it. There's no presentation in this at all. As I said, there's so few heads and faces that they just repeat over and over again. The best thing I can say about the graphics in this game is the animation. But, like, there's no diving in this game, so you can't even dive for a ball if you want to, because you don't have to. Because it's all automated as far as running to the ball and actually making contact with the ball. It's so bad. There's online multiplayer. I mentioned that earlier. There's a casual and ranked, and that's it. Casual, I could never get a game. I played ranked, and as I said, the matches went on forever and ever until I just finally quit. Like, it literally, there was one match that I had played for an hour, and we were only on the second set. And I just gave up. I was like, what is this? This is insane. There's no doubles in the game, whether you play by yourself or whether you play online. There's no doubles play.
That is weird.
In a tennis game. It's just, it's crazy. It's so bad. The kicker in all this, Matt, is it's $50.
It is?
They're trying to sell this game for $50, $49.99.
I was kind of expecting you to say it was like 15.
No, $50.
Wow.
It's terrible.
Well,
as I said in the first sentence discussing this game, the worst sports game I have played in decades.
go dig up a copy of Topspin.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You probably get it for $1. Buy it on eBay for $3. That's the thing, too. It's like, do graphics matter that much in a tennis game? Not really. What really matters is, does it play well?
Yeah, the physics and that kind of thing matter.
Yeah, do you have the adequate controls that you need? Like, the other thing in this game, rushing the net. He won't do it. You can hold that analog stick up all day, and he'll only go, like, halfway up the court. He won't go all the way to the net. But your opponents do. Good thing they're so dumb that you can whoop them. But otherwise, they have a huge advantage. They can go up to the net and stand there And of course, you just lob it over top of them or whatever when they do that. But still, that's completely out of your repertoire as a player. You can't go to the net. You can move up, but you can't go all the way to the net. I cannot believe they released this game. Like, this feels like, okay, this is a prototype that we put together to try to convince the publisher to sign the game. Like, this is what you show a publisher and say, this is what we've been working on. You interested in working with us? And then you spend 2 years developing the game. It's so bad. Matchpoint Tennis Championship, stay far, far away. Do you have any questions, Matt?
Nope.
Or you can go buy Nintendo Switch Sports, which has tennis in it, and actually does have doubles. So if you're a Switch owner, definitely go with that. I don't even think this is available for Switch yet. I think it may be coming later. But
sounds like a threat.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, get steer way far away from this game. I can't believe that they're releasing games this bad and trying to ask for that much money for it. So
I assume that's partly related to the license.
What's related to the license? Oh, I mean, if all you're getting is 18, who is that?
Right, but I'm sure
and
that
whatever crap gear they wear.
But I'm sure that still raised the price if they had to pay for licenses
to $50. It's crazy. Stay far, far away from that one. Or just as Matt said, buy an older game if you're interested in tennis.
The Topspin or Virtua Tennis or hell, that Sega Superstars Tennis game was pretty good.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was actually really good.
Yeah.
Mario Tennis,
because it was by the team that did Virtua Tennis.
Yeah, Mario Tennis is an arcade style tennis game, and it plays more realistically and gives you more control options than this game does.
And you can hit that ball with a firing racket.
That's right. Yep. So again, Matchpoint Tennis Championship.
You can play as a dinosaur in that.
I don't care how much you like tennis, and in fact, Mitch, who used to work with us here on GameFace. He's a big tennis player, and we've been trying to get a tennis game together for a long time. So, Mitch, if you're watching this, do not buy this game. Do not get suckered into buying this game. Just buy something old or just hold on until something decent comes out. Although, you may be holding on for a long time because tennis does not seem like a priority in the games industry anymore for most publishers. It just isn't.
No.
Yeah. It's turned into a niche, basically. Okay, let's move on. We've been talking about E3 2023 pretty frequently here on GameFace for the last few months as the fake E3 2022 rolled through and Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest happened and all that kind of stuff. And we wondered what the ESA was going to do because Jeff Keighley had already shared that he was going to tackle both an in-person and a digital event around the E3 timeframe in 2023. So we wondered, is the ESA just going to back off or is it going to approach Jeff and try to work together with Jeff on stuff as they had done in the past? Well, as it turns out, neither thing is happening. The ESA announced this week that it is doing E3 in person and digitally all on its own. Well, not completely on its own. When I say alone, I mean not with Jeff Keighley, but it is working with a production company called ReedPop, the same production company that does PAX. What is going to happen, Matt?
Well,
what is going to happen?
Nothing of note.
You don't think anything of note's going to happen?
Well, we'll see if they even do it in the first place.
Wait, which side? ESA
E3.
or Matt or
E3.
Or Jeff?
ESA.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't pay for tickets just yet. That way.
I don't know. What's going to happen here? Are they both going to try to do it? And then what?
Yeah, I think so.
That would be a disaster.
For E3.
You think?
Who's going to
Or do you think people are going to embrace the real E3 and be like, Jeff, I'm sorry, man.
What is the real E3?
The real E3 is what we're seeing here.
The real E3 is dead. The real E3 is gone. Sony's not coming back. Microsoft's not coming back. EA's not coming back. Like, nothing's there anymore. There's no there. Like, you're going to see Nintendo's booth. That's it. Like, it's over. It's over. Hiring the PAX people indicates that they're going to try to turn this into a fan event kind of thing, and that's it. That's what they're going to try to do to milk people for money and turn it into some kind of Comic-Con kind of thing. That's what this is. This is an attempt at a redirect. It is not the return of E3.
But look, if Jeff is already committed to doing an in-person event,
yeah, and
the ESA does it too, you think they're going to not participate with either one of them?
Who?
The publishers.
I mean, they'll participate, but like the Sony's not going to be on the floor. Like, you're not going to be able to go play Sony games on either floor.
But there's more publishers than Sony, obviously.
Yeah, but you're talking about the big three. There's only going to be one of them there.
Well, Xbox is still there. I mean, across the street.
Xbox is across the street in a separate event in the theater they own.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing.
It kind of is. I mean, it's literally like 50 yards away from the front door of E3.
Yeah, but you got to get in a different way.
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole separate line to wait in, and then you got to wait in lines inside. I mean, it's a shitty thing. I understand why they do it, because that way they get free rent because they own the theater. It's instead of paying like however many millions the booth space costs across the street. Like, it makes sense as a business decision for them, but it's not the same thing in terms of how you experience it as an attendee. Like, it's a terrible show. It's been a terrible show for a long time if you're not like an industry person. Like, I would never recommend anyone go to this and spend their money on this if they weren't already part of the industry and having to go and knew people and had connections and could get appointments and stuff. Like, I would absolutely, at the very least, wait and see what the hell this looks like.
So you think they're both going to fail?
I don't know.
Both the in-person events?
Well, it depends what Jeff's goal is. What's Jeff's goal with this thing? Is it just to be like another Summer Games Fest?
Just to replace E3.
Right, but you're not going to do that in 1 year.
I mean, he's been doing it for multiple years already.
Yeah, but he's not done an in-person, like, open to the public event.
That's my question. Well, he just did. Well, not open to the public, but he did have a little warehouse where he had some people.
Right, but that's different from, like, opening it to, like, people who just want to buy a ticket.
The point that I'm getting at is an in-person event is going to happen during E3 week next year. So, whose is it going to be? Is it going to be the ESA's in-person event, or is it going to be Jeff Keighley's in-person event?
I mean,
the publishers support.
I would imagine, like, both and neither to some degree.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You think they'll support both? Or do you think the publishers are going to start sending a message to one camp or the other, like, hey, heads up, we're going to do this with Jeff. Or, heads up, we're going with the ESA. We've been dealing with them for 30 years. Like,
well,
how's that going to play out?
I don't think the E3 thing gives you enough advantage for the money. So I would expect
the ESA thing. You mean?
Yeah, I would expect a lot of them would go with Jeff, because you're going to get the same the same number of people still watch this shit. No matter, it doesn't matter who does it. The point is that it streams and it happens, and people can pull up Twitch or YouTube and watch it, and you still get the numbers. So maybe you should maybe they're going to go with the guy who isn't charging them a ridiculous amount of money to be involved, because he's not a lobby group.
Yeah. I mean, he may not be charging them anything. Who knows? I honestly do not know.
I would think he wouldn't be.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for him to have a chance, he probably should not.
No, I agree, yeah.
Because if he tries to charge, then I think the publishers will definitely go with the ESA.
Well, that's why Jeff has sponsors.
Right.
Sponsors pay for it, not the public.
Well, so does the ESA. I mean,
yeah,
the
but
ESA
they're also
has
charging
banners.
everybody everything. You know, everybody has to pay to go to E3.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think from a financial standpoint, it makes more sense to go with Jeff, because he's not going to gouge you for booth space or whatever, because there really isn't any beyond like whatever rudimentary thing exists. And who knows how big the venue might be.
Yeah.
And you're still going to get pretty much the same amount of eyeballs online as you would either way. So why not go with the one that isn't trying to charge you $10 million for a booth?
So you think if the publishers are sitting there and they're like, okay, Jeff has this little warehouse in Santa Monica, the ESA has the LA Convention Center, they're going to go with Jeff in that little...
Yeah, I don't think the in-person event really matters. I think it's the online, the digital stuff, and you can do both of them. You know, you can still say, like, okay, we'll do a press event thing and brand it as E3, and throw up a digital stream or a direct kind of thing and call it E3. That's fine, but like, it doesn't mean you got to be involved in the in-person show. A bunch of them haven't been.
What if the ESA does, as you said, and it works with this group that produces packs, and it does become this big fan event? That doesn't change in the calculus for you? You don't think the publishers then are like, hey, we need to connect with our fans?
Not in 2023.
Yeah.
You'd have to prove it. You have to prove it by doing.
Well, I mean,
2024,
they could do that by saying we've sold X number of tickets already.
Bullshit. No.
What do you mean bullshit?
People have to see the event be successful. You have to see that it's an event you want to be part of, that isn't a disaster that everybody hates and gets stuck like waiting in giant crowded spaces to get you'd have to see that it's run competently in 2023 before you decide to join up in 2024. That's the 2023 is a proving ground for the ESA on this.
But it's a chicken and egg scenario, right? Because if the publishers aren't there, no one's going to go.
I think people are going to go anyway, because people went to the old one, and there wasn't really much to do there either. At the very least, having the people that run PAX might indicate that they would be able to set some stuff up where there'd be stuff for people to do.
Yeah, what if
one thing that PAX does not lack is things for people to do.
Right, so what if E3 turns into that? So down below where we used to go to Kenshia Hall and they had all these goofy peripherals and stuff. What if they take all those rooms and they turn them into like gaming rooms, and there's an esports tournament in one of them, and there's tabletop gaming in another? It's PAX. Like,
yeah.
You don't think publishers would want to work with that?
They don't go to PAX in large numbers, do they?
They do. Publishers. They just show different.
Not E3 level. I mean, we're talking about something that's comparable to E3 that has the name E3 on it. No, this might be like PAX E3 in the end, but like, you know, you're gonna, and with the money that the ESA charges to be part of these things, like that's just not there anymore. Like,
so what if the ESA is like, you know what, we're going to bite the bullet and we're going to make less money off of E3? And
I mean, yeah, sure.
Would that change the calculus?
Probably, but that is a thing they would do in 2024 after they realize that 2023 didn't work right. I think you're going to have them some kind of failure or success in 2023 before you see what the shape of this thing is going to be going forward. Meanwhile, Jeff already knows what he wants to do. So that's the slight advantage that Jeff has. In general, I don't think it really matters in the end very much, because the vast majority of people are just going to watch these things stream online and not think about it twice.
Yeah.
And in the end, I think you are still up, even if you're trying to create some kind of PAX style event, you're up against the wall in the fact that like PAX Prime or PAX East are in very different places than downtown Los Angeles. Like, just getting to this and existing in the space and finding food and lodging is going to cost you several $1,000s. In that prime tourist June season.
I mean, PAX is in Seattle. It's expensive AF there too.
Yeah, but not as much at the time of year, and not as much in the sense that like you can get around Seattle. You can go places. You know, there's a public transit system that more or less works. You can do what you need to do. In LA, you're kind of stuck downtown. There's nothing. You can't come here, and like there's so much stuff in LA that people don't realize is not in LA. It's like, oh, as long as we're there, we'll go to Disneyland. Disneyland's 35 miles south of there.
Yeah,
you're gonna need to rent a car. You're gonna need to take a bus. You're gonna take a train. Like, there's a lot of stuff to deal with.
I personally would rather be in LA than Seattle. You're only, no matter where you are, you're, you know, an Uber ride from the beach.
Have you tried to take an Uber to the beach lately? You know how much that costs now?
I mean, I don't think that matters.
From downtown, it's $100-something bucks.
I don't think that matters. If you come all the way to LA and you want to go to the beach,
it matters if you don't have $100 to spend on an Uber.
I mean, you don't come to LA if you don't have a little bit of money.
Well, then who's this for?
What do you mean use it for? For gamers, people who love games.
Who apparently have thousands and thousands of dollars of disposable income.
Some of them do.
They don't expect to spend on games, I guess. I just don't buy it.
I think it's as the lower third said, it's going to be a clash of the Titans. I think it's really going to, if one of these two doesn't back down.
Titans is a very generous word. But
for which side?
Both of them.
What, really? Jeff is a Titan. So is the ESA.
Online,
the ESAs are lobbying.
Online, not in person. Like, that's these in-person events are the losers here. Like a digital competition, sure, that's going to be a fight. But in terms of like getting people to go to these things, like people will go to them, but it's like these have become very lackluster events. The E3 has been, and like they're going to have to come out of the gate swinging. I can't imagine what that's going to be, if it even happens. I mean, Jeff's still going to do it no matter what, because Jeff's Jeff. But
so you mean COVID maybe?
Yeah, could be.
Keeping it from happening.
I don't know.
I think this is going to be fascinating to watch, honestly.
Oh, it might indeed be fascinating to watch.
Because I do think both of them are titans in the industry, and I think both of them have a lot of pull with publishers, and I think it's going to put the publishers in a really, really tough spot where they have to pick. Because I do not think that publishers are going to be willing to participate at both. Like, I don't think they're going to be willing to have, like, kiosks at both events. I just don't. It's too much. And it's like there's a
Sony's not going to be at either one of them,
right?
So who cares? Like that.
I mean, I care about a lot more than just Sony,
right? But like you're talking, like that's where the fanboyism is. That's where the fervor is the console war stuff. And like two of the console warriors are not going to be at E3, and they're probably not really going to be at least one of them's not going to be at Jeff's thing either.
Well, if the ESA were smart, what it would do is it would work out a deal with Microsoft where if you pay to come to E3, it also gives you a pass to go across the street to the Xbox thing.
I mean, generally, I think that's how it worked. It's just getting...
It is?
Something like that. Was it?
I don't know, honestly.
I don't know. I had a press thing the whole time. But all I know is that I saw people lined up outside that Microsoft theater for way longer than they should have been.
I felt like I needed to talk to Xbox PR to get into that.
I had to talk to Xbox PR to get past the line. But I still could get in with my E3 thing as far as I remember.
I thought for sure it was special armbands that got you in there.
I can't remember. I think you just need to like show credentials for E3 and then you get the credential to get in there. I don't think it was a separate thing, but I might be wrong.
My point, though, is that this is like the Titanic heading towards an iceberg. Like, I just don't know which way it's going to turn. I I think
whichever way it turns, it's still going to hit the iceberg.
You may be right, but I don't know. I never thought we would be in a position where we'd have this one luminary taking on the establishment. Well, the establishment.
We've been saying Jeff's going to try that for years now.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
clearly what he's warming up.
I'm talking about when I got in the industry back in the early aughts or whatever. Like, I never could have dreamed that one person could do what Jeff is doing.
I never would have dreamed that many people would be able to bring cameras to the thing. It was a very different world.
That's a good point too. Absolutely. Vincent saying, "Why are you assuming Jeff would be open to the public? I'm expecting his to be press and influencers only."
I mean, that would be what I'd expect, unless you know something about what he's doing. I don't. Like, I don't think he's trying to make a PAX here.
No, I don't think so either. But he said he's having in-person event next year.
Yeah, but I think he's right. I think that's like kind of what he did this year, just like maybe a larger venue so
like
more people
can go.
Like
the judges and things like
that.
that.
Judges and press and influencers and developers and whoever wants to get in and has the clout to do it, basically. Influencers. Like, I have a hard time believing that people that just show up to buy a public ticket for E3 will be able to go to Jeff's thing, too. Also, if Jeff thinks in Santa Monica, like, don't even try it. Like, that's a day trip.
Jeff's been doing this forever, by the way. He's been setting up, like, locations for Judges Week.
Judges Week has always been a thing.
It's the same thing, though. Let's be honest.
It's slightly larger
because
now.
There were events at Judges Week where you would go to a hotel, and there would be a big, like, mini E3 there, basically.
Yeah, it was like an E3 where you can actually play something.
Yeah, and you get shuffled around from, like, one ballroom to the next and see this.
But he always kept it away from. It was always like a month before. Usually.
Right. It was before instead of happening that week. You're right. So I don't know if he's going to look at Judges Week now differently, and that's going to be rolled in.
I'll say personally, as someone who would want to like cover stuff press-wise or whatever for that kind of thing, I would absolutely rather go to Jeff's thing because I would imagine I'd be treated better and be able to get my hands on more stuff in less time.
Maybe. It's going to be interesting to watch, man. Again, I just think this is something like we've never seen before. I don't think there's any way to know how it's shaking out. I don't think we know.
I mean, I don't
how
think
weakened the ESA is in the eyes of the publishers is the X factor.
I think real damn weak. Otherwise, you wouldn't have all these people leaving.
I just don't know if the publishers are saying it's been COVID. Like, they totally can't do the show.
No, this was before COVID.
What's before COVID?
The Leaving.
Oh, yeah, The Leaving. But I think The Leaving's done. Like, I think the people that have left...
no one's left to go except Nintendo and Ubisoft.
No. There's plenty of publishers there.
Who?
Activision.
Activision shut that shit down.
Bandai Namco. There's sure for sure. Bethesda used to have a booth after Xbox had left.
If you could even get it. Some years you couldn't get it.
But you're right. They will probably be leaving the floor now.
They're not going to be there.
To go to Xbox's thing. Yeah.
I mean, they'll be next door, I guess. But, like, there's nothing there. It's so rudimentary now. Like, I hope you like Atlas games. You know?
Well, I think also our bar is a little different from people who may just want to come.
Somewhat, but like also like if you're thinking about flying across the country to come to this thing for however amount of money and stay like, and you're like, well, it's just going to be Nintendo, Ubisoft, Sega, Bandai, and a bunch of also rans, you know, like it's one thing. It's not like I'm not interested in their games, but it's a different thing to say I'm interested in playing your game versus like I'm interested in coming across the country, staying in LA for a week to pay for the privilege to stand in line to touch it. Like it's a different thing. Like, I mean, I'm sure that's why they've teamed up with the Repop people to try and come up with reasons for people to be there other than that. Because the fact that they teamed up with the PAX people says to me that they kind of know this is a problem. Because this indicates to me that they're going to try to create a space that is going to be something that we're like, because PAX specializes in.
Well, it also says to me that they can't work with Keeley anymore.
Right, but
I mean, because he was doing this stuff before.
Yeah, but he wasn't organizing the whole show.
No, but he was handling all the community stuff. He was the one setting up the panels where people would sit on the bean bags and watch the panels that happened. They had that whole area busted open just for his stuff. But he was handling the community angle.
But going with PAX also indicates that they're trying to make it something a little different in the sense that PAX's appeal is not in really what's shown on the floor and what the booths have to say or have to show. It's largely a community event. It's like people's good memories of PAX come from the people they interact with and the stuff they play together off the show floor as much as on the show floor. If you can create some kind of space like that, like you said, using Kensha Hall or whatever, you might have a better reason to be there. You might have a reason to come back every year to see your E3 friends, like a lot of PAX people do or a lot of Comic-Con people do. But right now, that's not really a thing. In part because the public-facing E3 has not existed long enough for that to happen, and too many people come in and go like, okay, I guess we've seen everything in one day. Let's go to the zoo or something. You know? But like, you got to make it a place that's worth going, no matter whether Sony or all these other companies show up in the future or not.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if that's possible. Certainly, I don't know if it's possible to and continue to justify renting the LA Convention Center for it.
I think no matter what, it's going to be really messy.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of fumbling and figuring out what this thing needs to be.
Stops and starts where you think for a while that one is going to do it, and then you think the other one's going to do it.
Well, I don't think it's the other one. I think Jeff is what it is, and we know what Jeff's doing. I think what E3 is going to be is the question, and I think E3 is the thing that people, including a lot of the big publishers, are going to be like, well, let's see what it is. You know, like I would definitely take a stand and wait tactic towards this, especially if I hadn't been super dedicated to E3 in the years before, you know, the pandemic happened. I would definitely have a lot of questions about it. I'm sure there will be meetings about that.
Oh yeah.
But the only, like, you know, even if I'm Nintendo, I'm kind of be like, do we want to build a giant fancy booth like we always do, or you just want to kind of, yeah, here we are kind of thing?
I'm pretty convinced Nintendo will build a gigantic fancy booth.
Maybe, but like, I don't know. Like,
for Nintendo, a lot of it's about control.
Sure, a lot of it's about control, but the other thing, I do not discount the fact that we haven't had an E3 in 3 years, 4 years by then.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind.
And it hasn't hurt anybody. They've all sold fine. The PlayStation 5 went crazy. The Xbox Series X sold great. Like, everything's fine. No one needs this, and they all know it now. Like, that's the obstacle for E3.
Then why do they need Jeff?
Who?
The publishers. They
don't
need Jeff either.
They don't. No, you're right.
Right. So why would they work with Jeff?
I don't know. That's a good. Well, because look at Summer Games Fest.
Because
Where were they?
They feel like they do need it.
They don't. They can just put their own shit out.
No, so whether they do or not is irrelevant. I think that they believe that they do need it.
I don't think they do anymore.
Then they wouldn't be a part of Jeff's thing.
Were they?
Yeah.
Where?
Well, I mean,
because most of Summer Games Fest was just like. No, we watched those
anything
things.
that wasn't in a press conference was in Summer Game Fest, was in Jeff's show.
But like it was not. We said ourselves like, okay, we're gonna go over the stuff that was in that Summer Games Fest, but a lot of it was just like indie stuff that like.
Well, as we're seeing, every big game from this year was delayed out of the year.
That didn't help.
Yeah.
And now every big game is coming out before this next year.
Yeah, that's true. So I think it's going to get really interesting to watch how this all plays out. I never thought I would see Jeff butting heads with the ESA.
I think it's going to be more like watching the crypto thing collapse into itself.
Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what you guys think. I feel like a lot of times when we ask our community about this, they want the old E3 back. Like when these...
Who does?
Like the sifters. Like when we post stories about this type of stuff, about the ESA, about Summer Games Fest for Jeff... The majority of the people in the comments usually say they want the old E3. They like the spectacle. They like the big press conferences. They like the surprises. They like the crowd reactions to things. Like they want live crowds back at the press conferences.
Oh, well.
Yeah. But I mean,
it's not worth
you
it
have
to
to
anybody.
listen to the players at least a little bit.
No, you don't, because they're still going to buy the fucking game. Like, who gives a shit? Why would you spend all that money to do this big venue thing and rent this giant theater and pack all these people in it? Then you just do a direct and it's the same. It's the same outcome for you business-wise. There's no reason to do that. It's not worth it anymore.
I wonder if anyone has done any studies in the post-E3 press conference world and compared the viewership of the directs and the media that the publishers put out, and if it has, in fact, gone up over time, or if it's gone down since the live press conferences stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't know who would even assemble all that data, honestly. But it'd be interesting to get a look at it. But Erebus says, I honestly couldn't give a crap. I like the press conferences, but don't care if it's an event or a YouTube video.
And I think that is very, very common. As long as you get the content in your eyeballs, I don't think it matters what they're doing at the location.
Ashes in the Hourglass, I don't care about the live aspect. Vincent, I got like 95% of what I enjoyed from E3 from Play Days. Ashes in the Hourglass says just make it all in a week. I think we would all
concentrate everything in one time zone.
I think that's a common criticism from all of us, I think, is that we all would be like, look, we don't need to drag this out like 3 months. It's really ridiculous.
But I think that is sort of, they condensed it more this year, and I think that, going forward with this, if you've got these two things kind of competing or at least paralleling, there's no reason not to do it all at once. I'm sure Sony will do it a week before, a week after, just be different or whatever. But like it all kind of, I think it will continue to kind of concentrate in one area.
There are people who are saying that they miss E3. Lesteved says it. I miss Zaboomafoo with Crack Bros. I miss E3.
I miss E3, but it's gone. It's over. It's never coming back. E3 as we knew it is over. And to try and like kind of prop up the corpse is kind of silly at this point. You want to recreate it into a community event like PAX? Sure. LA could use one of those. Mm-hmm. But like,
I mean, it's kind of crazy that LA doesn't have one of those.
True.
Let's be honest.
I don't think the convention center is the place where it's too big and too pricey, unless they're still getting the deal they used to get where they got it for $1. I mean, that depends whether LA finds it worth it.
That's the city.
Yeah, the city. Yes, the city did that because it was like
generates a lot of other revenue.
It generated something like 22% of revenue for the summer or something down to like it was a huge just like Comic-Con. Comic-Con is something like 73% of the revenue down there
of the Gaslamp
Gaslamp district.
If you go to that area when it isn't Comic-Con,
it's very different.
It's a different world, dude.
Yeah, it is.
It is really quiet.
You can get into restaurants and everything.
Real slow. Like I had a buddy that just visited me last weekend, and he actually flew into San Diego first. And then got a rental car and drove up here to hang out with me for a couple days with his whole family. But he went to see a Padres game. He's a big baseball guy at the stadium, which is right there.
Padre. Okay. I thought you said pod race.
No, the Padres.
They have pod races in San Diego? Where have I not seen it?
And the Padres Stadium, which is amazing, by the way, is right next to the convention center where they have Comic-Con. And you walk out of those two venues, and then that's the Gaslamp. And it runs up like 5 blocks away, I guess, roughly. But he was like, area was so dead. Yeah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that's the Gaslamp. He's like, there was nobody there.
There's nothing
ever.
there. Like, there's people out like on a Friday night or a Saturday night. Like, you'll see people, but it's not like
like it is at Comic-Con. It's just raging. It's awesome. That's the best part of Comic-Con for me.
I was there. I was there in June, and for a minute there, I was like, I mean, there's still people out because it was Saturday night, but I'm like, is this not the same area? And they're like, no, this is the same.
This is it.
It's just you can walk on the sidewalks now because it's not Comic-Con.
I mean, it's not even very crowded at all.
Yeah.
Like, even on Friday and Saturday night, I went to a baseball game on a Saturday night there last time I was there, and like you'd see patches of people.
Well, actually, when I was there, it was fairly crowded because it was graduation, and like people were walking around in prom dresses and stuff like grad night stuff. So it was probably more so than normal.
Yeah.
But it still was not Comic-Con. Like Comic-Con is a level of
Popping
crushing crowds that is just you don't know.
It's awesome. I love it. It's great to see our people out on the streets and in bars and restaurants.
I hate every fucking second of it. Get out of my fucking way. Like, I am so done with that shit.
So anyway, this is the story that we'll keep an eye on, and you guys will too, as the year goes on and we get more information. But this is kind of the first volley from the ESA saying, look, we're coming, and we'll see how it all shakes out. I can't wait to see.
It's more like the first volley from the ESA saying, hey, we're coming back. Guys,
is there anyone left to talk to now?
We're coming back.
Yeah.
Where are you going? Like I am skeptical about the need for any of this.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the ESA's need for it.
Yep.
But
next is Six Batty also brings up a good point. He says, doesn't Pachter say that attending E3 for publishers is to support the ESA as well, to keep them afloat, to keep them around, to protect their interests in court and Congress? Yes.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
But
that is the main way that they do support the ESA.
Yes, but I do think it's only a matter of time before a different lobby group rises to maybe give them an alternative to support rather than the ESA, because I don't think there's a lot of satisfaction with the ESA in terms of doing that job in recent years.
Yeah. Okay.
Decades, whatever you want to call it.
Okay. Let's move along. We're going to talk next about a PlayStation purchase that finally went through this week, and we got some more insight into what it all means. Haven Studios, which is Jade Raymond's brand new studio, which it appears now the startup of the studio was funded by PlayStation. Mm-hmm. And then they started kicking around a couple ideas inside the studio. They showed it to PlayStation, and PlayStation was like, you know what? We just want to own you.
Mm-hmm. Which is exactly what I said was happened when we talked about it before.
Yeah.
I said there must be something they're working on, either the game concept or some tech they have that Sony's like, we want that.
Yep. And that's exactly what's happened. Mm-hmm. So apparently Haven Studios and Jade Raymond and her crew, also, by the way, it's not just her. There's at least like 10 all-star developers working at Haven.
Managing a team that's like up to like 100 now.
Yeah. But there's like 10 like ringers on that team that have built amazing games and done innovative stuff with tech and things like that. So she's with that squad, and they started working on their stuff remotely. And her goal was to create a studio that could work remotely 100%. Even when the pandemic was over, they would still... And so they built this crazy cloud structure that allows them to share the stuff that they're working on very quickly, and you're not waiting to download stuff, you're not waiting to get connected through the VPN and all this other stuff that a lot of other companies use. They built this studio from the ground up to work remotely, and as kind of a tack-on effect of that, they also are building their game on the same cloud that they built their work structure on. And somehow, through all of this, they've also managed to cobble together ideas for games, which has impressed PlayStation, which, by the way, if you remember, PlayStation's goal is to have, was it 15 games as a service launched by March of 2024?
I think something like that.
Or was it 8? I can't remember what the number was. It was a large number.
It was a big number. It was
both of us thought...
More games as a service than we would prefer.
Yes, and also more than I think either one of us thought they would actually complete in that amount of time. But something that Haven has done with its technology has made PlayStation, one, say, well, we want to buy you and own you, but also PlayStation wants that tech that they've built to be shared...
Distributed through all
of its teams. First of all, how do you feel about that?
Cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
there's no kind of, if it's not broke, don't fix it feelings coming from this for you?
I'm sure that there's plenty of stuff broke in Sony's development pipelines in their team. Like, you could always make it better.
Yeah.
There's one thing I've learned from game development people is it could always be better. And Jade and those people should know what needs to be improved. So
I'm just saying, if a studio like Naughty Dog...
You want to not end up in a situation where Naughty Dog needs to give, like, 20 people a remake of Last of Us 2 to keep them employed for 8 months? Like, this is how you do it.
I'm just saying, like, if you have a studio like Naughty Dog that's made these amazing games, or Sony Santa Monica that's made these incredible games, with the in-person environment, does it not scare you at all?
No.
For all these studios to start adopting this remote?
Nope.
No?
Not for 1 second.
I agree with you, because I think that if Sony didn't think that what Haven built was capable of changing these studios, it wouldn't push it on these studios.
No.
So I agree with you.
Sony's very conservative about stuff like that.
I trust Sony to not mess with its first-party studios, because that's what keeps the entire company afloat. Let's be honest. Those games that those studios make are what makes PlayStation sing. So I agree with you.
And it's what's allowing them to make the spearhead into the PC market.
Yeah.
Which seems to be a focus for their hardware thing now. Again,
they
doubled down on that this week, saying that they want to be the Nike of like game accessory hardware.
Who cares? What? Nobody cares about that. Just make
weird.
games. And that's so out of character for Sony.
Like,
and for
I know that's a division that just does that. Like, it's not like they're the game, but like
yeah, it's not pulling away developers.
What
from
a weird
thing
games. To say. Like, what a weird goal. Yeah, I didn't know what to do with that.
You're diversifying in all the wrong ways, is what I would argue. So the irony, though, is that Haven was built from the beginning with this tech infrastructure to be a remote studio. But in this interview with Games Industry, and I would say go to Sifted and read the article. It has a lot more detail than we're ever going to get into here. But in an interview with Games Industry, she also makes an argument for people coming back to work. So she talks about trying to hire. There was a ringer that they wanted to hire. And the guy or girl was like, I'm not coming into work. Like, if you want to hire me, I'm going to be remote 24/7, and I'm never coming into the office. Otherwise, I'll go work for another studio that will let me do that. And they were like, well, look, we built this whole thing for that. But she said that he started coming in anyway, or he or she started coming in, and now that person likes working in person, where it was this subtle... I felt like she was talking to her studio in this interview, honestly. Like, saying things that maybe she didn't want to say in an all-hands meeting to Games Industry, and knowing that they would all read it and get the hint. Because she started hinting at, well, they were really against it, but then they came in once, and now I'm surprised that I see them in the office all the time. And then she goes on this tirade, not a tirade, but she goes on to explain all the advantages of working in person. And so I don't even know if she's all that tied to that idea, but
I think they're tied to the idea, because if you give someone the option to be able to do that, it makes choosing to do that your own decision, and that makes it a lot easier to deal with personally. Like, I understand. I would go in more often than not usually, but I would love, it's nice if you have a day where you just don't feel like putting up with a commute, or you don't need to be there that day. You can just stay home and do your work at home.
You can also save a lot of money not commuting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that, every company should have the option to do that. And I think you will find exactly what she said. Like a lot of times people will choose the in-office camaraderie or the in-office convenience of working together in person. But you need to be able to give them the ability to not have to do that at no penalty. And if this technology lets you do that at no penalty from a speed or ease of use point of view, great.
Yep.
Like that's exactly what you want.
Here's the quote from Jade about it. She said, "We had a cloud team initially. It was about 6 people working on new ways to work. Now we've just welcomed another 21 engineers to focus on long-term cloud innovation because we really believe it's going to be a game changer in terms of how games are made. There have been people talking about these different forms of cloud gaming from the consumer side, such as, quote, can you now play these AAA games on mobile, or can I now do these different kinds of games, which was the promise of Stadia. But the promise of cloud that we're really focusing on is more what it means to game developers. When you think about the game engines that we have around, they were all built several years ago, and things have changed a lot. Our games have a lot more data. We're making an exclusive for PS5, and it is a live service game, so we have additional challenges of how do we make that kind of game with that kind of delivery, but with the PlayStation-level graphics that people expect, all while allowing those constant updates and building something that could be a living experience." Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Like you got to push a lot more through the pipeline now, and that's going to strain your old methods of sharing things, probably even in-house, let alone remotely. So coming up with a new way to handle that is smart.
Well, she said also that after they built that tech, that Mark Cerny started sniffing around, basically.
Oh, if Cerny starts sniffing around, you got something.
And so she also shared a quote about that. She said, "So Mark Cerny is one of the main reasons we're investing so much in R&D, and in this very senior engineering team. It's not just tied to cloud, but also some more forward-thinking R&D. I'm not able to say too much now, but that's obviously one of the other things that's been a big attractor and is exciting to our team with PlayStation. Of course, Mark Cerny is kind of like a rock star too, so being able to collaborate with him is really exciting. Mark Cerny is kind of like a rock star, and the fact that Jalal is joining, that's the other person that she just hired. There are a lot of bold ideas that we're looking forward to exploring."
What could go wrong
when
you have the man who made Knack on your
I feel like
team?
a lot could go wrong.
I don't think so.
No?
No. As opposed to what? Like getting Forsaken delayed again?
I don't know. When I hear stuff like this whole game is built on this cloud structure and blah, 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 it makes me nervous.
Well, the cloud structure they're talking about seems to be more about development tools, not the game. Like that sounds. The way I read that was that you're talking about using the cloud to have more powerful and faster ways to work remotely, where you're not waiting for things to populate or to render or to whatever, and you can instantly, different members of the team can instantly access this thing that's been finished, as opposed to waiting for it to upload or what, like a Dropbox kind of thing. I don't think the implication is that all these games are like, I don't think like Last of Us 3 is going to run on the cloud.
You don't?
No, this sounds like the cloud is being used for tools to make the remote working seamless. That's what I read that as.
Well, no. So that's what she was talking about at first, was how she built this environment to develop games more easily and share more easily. But out of that technology that they built, they've also built this new engine that runs on the cloud.
Right. Well, luckily,
because their game.
Well, luckily, we're talking about games as a service, and I don't care. So.
But, I mean, it sounds like this is a big thrust for PlayStation, though.
I mean, this is what Microsoft was trying to do as well. Like, that was the idea of, like, remember that? That was more Xbox One thing before they had to backpedal and change how the DRM was going to work and all that. But that was a big thing. It was like, Crackdown 3 only possible because of the cloud. Right. Only the cloud could do and like, Crackdown 3 came out and it didn't use the cloud and it ran offline just fine. It was kind of crappy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, there's precedent for the cloud thing not working, but the cloud thing hasn't worked very well because no one's ever actually gotten it to, like, fruition. If they can do that, like, that would be interesting to see. I don't know. Like, I still don't fully understand how that, it sounds like they're taking some kind of lesson from, like, what she thinks Stadia did well without the business model disaster that was Stadia.
Yeah, I get that vibe too, kind of.
The question always becomes, especially in light of this thing with Ubisoft this week, where they're shutting down all the online DLC access for the PC versions of the Assassin's Creed games and stuff. Like, if part of this game runs on the cloud, does that mean years down the road, when they shut down that part of it, will that game no longer be playable?
Right. That was what I was going to get at next. Is that's the fear for me. If you build these games on these cloud structures,
right now,
how do you ever archive those games?
Same way you archive an online game, you don't.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, so like, if you're talking about them doing games as a service like that, you're talking about like them doing like a Destiny game. Yeah, Destiny 2 will be unplayable one day because the servers will shut down. In the same way that, like, I can't play City of Heroes right now. I sure would like to play City of Heroes, frankly, but I can't play City of Heroes.
Yeah.
Apparently there's a secret private server somewhere that works, but like, generally you cannot play MMOs once they're dead. You cannot play online games once they're dead. That is just a fact of life.
This is why I brought up,
if you start making God of War, if you start making God of War 3 on the cloud, and like God of War 3 one day will no longer be I don't think they would do that. But like, it sounds like you just use that for some kind of like,
but why would they do that for Jade's game? You know what I'm saying?
Because it's a game as a service.
Yeah.
It's going to have an online component. It's going to be maybe all online. Who knows? We got to wait and see what these things are and what Sony defines as a game as a service. I would, theoretically, you could define like just a single player game that happens to have like a gachapon element as a game as a service, right? Even though if you could play it without using the microtransactions at all, you could still call that a game as a service. It depends how broad Sony's definition is. My guess is Sony's definition is something Bungie would make, an online only.
Which is why it bought Bungie in the first place, was to help with building structures for games.
Both of these acquisitions seem to have been very tech-centered.
Does it not seem weird to you that 15 or 10, I don't think anyone in chat ever tracked down the number of live service games that Sony's
I keep thinking it was 10. The more I think about it, I feel like the number was 10. Okay.
So if it's 10...
we're still not sure if they're counting games that they already put out, or if like they would count like the Last of Us multiplayer mode, which seems to be a standalone thing. I would imagine that would count, right? Yeah,
I think it does, yeah. I think that's what they're talking about. Yeah. And I think it was from that point forward, was that number of games before March of 2024. It doesn't bother you that there could be 10 games, first-party PlayStation games, that may only last 3 years and then they're gone forever if they're built on this cloud structure?
I mean, not if they're multiplayer focused, because I won't care.
No, I'm just saying, think about other people, though.
Don't care.
The industry in general.
Sony supports that stuff for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, Uncharted 3 just shut down not too long ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't find those particularly compelling, so I don't really care. If you start doing stuff like, and even if it's just a component, I don't really care that I can't play the co-op mode in Mass Effect 3 anymore. It doesn't matter. There's plenty of games where I can run around and shoot aliens and robots. Like, there's not a lot of games I can go play that Mass Effect story, but I can still do that. It doesn't bother me that part was cut out of the Mass Effect Definitive Legendary Edition or anything. Like, it's just not a thing that matters to me. I understand the desire to preserve things like that, but it doesn't matter to me.
But can't you see that the industry is kind of heading that way? That like all the best-selling games, the games that generate the most revenue, are those games?
Sure, but like I'm never going to want to play them again. So.
Yeah, but it should still matter to you because the health of the industry still matters to you.
The health of the industry doesn't have anything to do with whether someone can play Apex Legends in 2040.
It's not just Apex Legends, though. What if it's all of them? Like,
then
you don't think this is a dangerous precedent that's being set here?
No. Not unless they start making all games work like that in terms of giving them all like a limited shelf life, in which case it doesn't matter either. Because it would suck. It would be anti-consumer. It would be a situation where you wouldn't be able to go back and play classic games or whatever. But like, you know what? They'd still be putting out new games, and most people wouldn't care because most people don't go back and play old games.
Yeah.
And if you did if you did want to go back and play old games, you know what they do? They just remake them and put them on the cloud a different way. And then you buy them again and you play them again. That might be what the ultimate goal is there. You want to talk about? Oh, it's a cash grab that they remade Last of Us 1 from the ground up so soon. Well, maybe that's the plan.
Boy, that story caught fire on Sifted this week.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Most commented story we've had in months was the developer who worked on the Last of Us remake, whatever the hell you want to call it.
It's a remake.
It's a remake.
There's no other way to call it.
Saying that it's not a cash grab. Boy, it really generated some fire on Sifted.
I wouldn't call it a cash grab.
Yeah.
At all.
I don't even really care because look, there's young people who weren't old enough to play The Last of Us when it came out.
Or if you're a fan and you want it, like, I'm gonna buy it. I'm fine with it. I wish it wasn't $70, but I wish all the fucking PlayStation 5 games were $70. So that's just how it is.
My bigger concern is having really talented people working on redundant projects.
They have already established that those people were going to be laid off if this didn't happen, and now they will simply transition to another project.
Who established that?
Naughty Dog. They outright said they would have laid those people off if they. That's why that project exists.
I did not see that quote.
That was around the time they announced they fully revealed it. Was like they were like, yeah. Otherwise, these people wouldn't have had jobs for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. It
was a project they were able to put a bunch of people on that then got to work on that, and when that's done, they'll transition to another project that's ready for them.
I had never saw. If someone could find that quote and link it in chat, that would be awesome.
I want to say Druckmann said that.
I don't remember.
In the flurry of interviews after the sort of the fake E3 Sony thing.
Yeah.
Like, I remember him. He said, like, basically these guys had, this small team. Basically, we were able to come up with a way for them to keep working and having jobs, as opposed to laying them off until we were able to rehire them.
I completely missed that somehow.
So this was not taking away anything from a new project. It was just like this was a thing that they figured out they could do in kind of the gap between projects, and that's cool.
If that's the case, I'm totally down with that. If it kept people employed. I did not see that quote.
Yeah, though. I mean, I don't know how many people kept employed. It seems like a pretty small team.
Yeah, I doubt that team's very big at all.
I wouldn't think it would need to be that. But again, they did rebuild everything from the ground up. You would need some pretty good... You'd redoing all the cutscenes from the original... You're also redoing all the cutscenes from the original mocap. Like, that's a pretty big job.
Yeah.
It probably
not
was
as big as building a game from scratch.
I mean, you almost are... Really, like you're building everything. You have a template to work from, but everybody has you have concept.
Oh, you have way more than that. You have everything. You have all the art. You have all the
characters.
You have the whole script. You have how everything's shot. You have everything.
You still got to do all the work.
You can tweak it all.
You got to do all the work from the ground up. That's big.
You're just tweaking what's
there.
You're
not tweaking anything. You're making something from scratch. You
No.
have the blueprints, but you still got to build the house.
No, you're not.
Yes, you are.
You're okay, and we'll move on. That's insane to think that it's the same amount of work as building a game from nothing. That's crazy.
It's not the same amount of work, but it is a lot of work. It is not some simple thing.
Well, I think you can have a team about a third of the size and work on it for 18 months, and probably that's enough.
I think you need a team about half the size. Especially if you're going to redo all the cutscenes from the original mocap, like the things you're saving effort on and the things you're saving manpower and time on are the writing, which is only like 3 people. The acting, the record, all that stuff you've already got done.
All the audio, everything.
Changing all that and putting that all in and rebuilding every environment from the ground up. I mean, even if you have the blueprint there, you still have to make it. It's not automatic. It's not just it's not like the Academy thought, because I have this on my mind because it was 40th anniversary of Tron just went by.
Yeah.
And as you remember, Tron was disqualified for a visual effects Oscar nomination because the Academy thought you just told the computer what you wanted the picture to look like and hit the button and it made the movie.
That's really stupid.
But because people don't understand how that shit worked back then.
I mean, they should understand how that works.
Well, they didn't, because no one was around to explain it to them. They didn't understand.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think it's I mean, what is your definition of a cash grab?
Like a cheap ass thing. I mean, if they were gonna just like slap the remaster that already existed on PS4 onto PC and also release it under the guise of we 4K'd it, and so the PC version is now available as a PS5 version of Last of Us 1. That would be a cash grab to me, especially if you priced it at $70.
Yeah. The pricing at $70 is an issue for me.
I very, very much believe that this had the PC version in mind as well, because I think if you just slap the PS4 remaster of Last of Us 1 on the PC and call it the PC version, the PC market's going to be like, fuck you. Like, that's going to seem lazy to them. So I think, and in this case, you end up with a version of the original game that can stand up next to the second game in terms of production quality and visual quality and how the characters look and that kind of thing. And I think that's a good thing to have going forward, because clearly they're going to do another one.
Yeah. And
one day you want to sell that trilogy pack, and they all better kind of stand up next to each other. So
I'm very interested to see how much has changed. Now, I know they put out that trailer that showed a couple things. When the rubber hits the road and you're playing a 15-hour game, I'm very interested to see exactly how much of that game has changed. I really think it's probably not going to be as much as some people.
I think it's going to be a drastically different experience.
We'll see,
because they're going to incorporate.
I hope you're right,
because they're incorporating the gameplay elements and the combat
I can't play
elements.
that game anymore.
Yeah, it
feels
archaic.
Unplayable.
I mean, it feels archaic, especially compared to the second one. If they just bring the second one's gameplay elements in, and you're going to have to tweak environments to make that combat work, from the second one in the first one. I think it's going to be surprisingly different.
I hope you're right.
It's going to be very interesting to play. It's also going to be very interesting to see what it sells.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in the sales numbers for that.
There's going to be a whole new generation of players who never played the original when it came out.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think it's a cash grab. There's all these new people who need to buy it. And why not give them the best version of the game possible? Totally get that.
Yeah. If that's a cash grab, then what's how many times are you going to release Persona?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. That's not any.
I mean, there's tons of publishers that are guilty of doing the same thing. Nintendo completely re-released the whole Wii U catalog.
Every Nintendo retro.
Those really were cash grabs because they did very little work.
Let's talk about the Super Mario 3D collection.
Right.
How low effort that shit was.
Or even the Virtual Console stuff where they're
didn't even work
taking these crappy versions that they So it's
didn't even put an invert Y on Mario. Come on.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, let's move on to our last topic of today's show, and I wanted to end the show.
Put some effort in that Metroid Prime thing, guys. That's rumored to still be this year.
It is rumored, yeah. I wanted to end the show on a positive note because I played a game this week that I was very pleasantly surprised by, and it has maybe the dumbest name ever in the history of video games.
I've never even heard of this. I thought you might have been talking about some event I didn't know about.
No, it is a game, and it's called Arcade-geddon. Again, the dumbest name for a video game ever.
That sounds like a video game tournament from a movie in the 80s.
It does. Well, the premise of the game is, and it's like one of those games that breaks the fourth wall or whatever. It's developed by Ilphonic, which is the same studio that made the Friday the 13th games. They also made that kind of crappy Predator game. Friday the 13th was kind of crappy too. Mm-hmm. So I had very low expectations coming in.
Friday the 13th, to be fair, had a lot of issues behind the scenes. That was they got screwed by the licensor.
By the licensors, yeah, absolutely. But anyway, this game is like night and day compared to those other two games that Ilphonic has made. It has actually been in PC Early Access a year now. So it's been available on PC, albeit in unfinished form. It just released for all consoles, and then version 1.0 for PC launched on the same day. The whole gist of the game is that you're trying to save an arcade. A mega corporation called the Funco, the FFC, is absorbing independent arcades in the game's futuristic city, and Gillies, the arcade that you're trying to save, is the last one standing. So the owner creates a game called Arcade-geddon to draw on business, but it attracts the attention of the FFC, which installs a virus into the game in order to take it over, and you are basically inside the game trying to fight the virus and save Gillies Arcade. And that's pretty much the premise. I will say this, after the initial cutscenes, there's not a lot of cinematics after that kind of carry the story forward. Eventually you are in this kind of hub area that's littered with characters that you meet, and they're all pretty cool, and they all have kind of stories that they're telling, but it doesn't necessarily really move the story forward. This game is a roguelite game. I'm not 100% sure if the levels are randomly generated, but it looks like they could be. But if they are, it has to be the best random generation in the history of gaming, because the levels do feel like they were hand-built. I never went into a level and got into one of those awkward situations where you reach a dead end, or you get to a part of the level where it's not populated with enemies or anything interesting. If they are, in fact, generating this game on the fly, they're doing a really damn good job of it. I guess if I had to describe this game in a sentence, I would say, well, the lower third kind of says it all. It's Left 4 Neon. It's like Left 4 Dead set in this crazy, I wouldn't call it cyberpunk. And in fact, the one thing I like about this game's art is that it's kind of indescribable. I feel like...
Thematically, it's cyberpunk.
Is it?
A technologically advanced dystopia controlled by a corporate or governmental
it does fit
government power, and a bunch of people fighting against the power by rebelling and trying to save the little guy. That's absolutely cyberpunk.
Okay.
In terms thematically, aesthetically, it can be anything.
Yeah, aesthetically, I feel like there's something that has looked like this game before, and I cannot put my finger on it.
It reminds me of those retro wave, synth wave racing games that pop up all the time.
I like it. I love the look of this game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's tons of customization, and that way it feels almost like a free-to-play game, but it's not. This game actually costs $30 if you decide to buy it, but it is, if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber right now, it is free. If you're at the basic level.
There's a weird level of like Jet Set Radio to it.
Jet Set Radio, and it also reminds me, like, you can't hear it, but it also reminds me of Splatoon. It has the characters are very weird and quirky and offbeat, and like the noises that they use for their voices, it gives me a bit of a Splatoon vibe. But again, it's really hard for me to put my finger on what this game reminds me of, which is a good thing. It's really hard to do that anymore, Matt. Like, because we've seen so much, and it's the law of diminishing returns. With every new game that's released, that's one style that another game can't use. So it becomes more and more difficult to come up with new concepts and new looks. But anyway, the objective is supposed to be you're saving the arcade, but once you start playing the game, all that to me, it felt like it just kind of disappeared. You can play it by yourself, or you can play it cooperatively with up to 3 other players. As I said, there's a hub littered with characters that you complete missions for. If you complete their tasks, you're rewarded with power tokens and other rewards. Power tokens unlock plugins, which basically are like these things that you install in your character to give your character perks and buffs.
Puffs.
And surge abilities, which are basically special attacks. Those operate on a cooldown, and you can have 2 of those installed at a time, which is cool. So you have like basically 2 specials that you can use. And you go on runs, just like any roguelite game. Each attempt rewards you with XP and tickets. XP levels up your character, though you don't really have any say in how the attributes are increased. It just happens. And then tickets are a currency that are used for purchasing cosmetics. As your run goes on, you pick up buffs on your own. So there's loot everywhere. There's boxes that you can burst. There's chests that you can open. And a lot of times those will spew out things that you can pick up that will, kind of like Returnal, that will build up your character over the long haul. So as your run goes on, you become more powerful. It makes it a little easier for you to deal with the foes in the levels. Back in the hub, you can customize your avatar. You can buy outfits. You can unlock and assign the passive buffs and the specials. The cool part is, as you use weapons, they level up, and then they become unlocked for your default loadout. Meaning, so if you find a gun that you really like and you use it, once it gets to a certain point of usage, when you go to start a run over, right here, you're seeing it right now, actually, the timing, it's all timing out perfectly. You can choose what weapons you start as. Right here, this is the beginning of the game, so I only have 1 weapon that I can choose. But now I have all 3 of them. So when I start any run, I can choose 3 weapons to start the run with, which is great. And that's another way it kind of works like Returnal. Like, as you play it, your character is permanently leveling up. So you fail a run, you go back, you still actually achieve something that will help you on the next run that will be there forever, basically.
Now this looks like Fortnite to me.
A little bit. Yeah, it's got a little bit of Fortnite in it, for sure. As you watch the B-roll, though, I think your mind will change on that, though, over time. Let's see what else. I lost my point in my notes here. Oh. The weapons in this are awesome. There's one weapon... This lets you know how awesome the weapons are in this. I found one that I didn't like. One out of, I don't know how many there are, probably dozens of weapons, I'm guessing, maybe 20, 25. There's one weapon that I found that was a machine gun that froze enemies, and I hated that. Every other weapon in this is awesome. And as you use it, it will become more powerful in the level, and will start having elemental things that attach to it. So you can pick up these little, like, tags that will attach to your weapon, that all of a sudden this weapon that was just an explosive weapon before, now all of a sudden it electrocutes enemies, or now all of a sudden it will freeze the enemies, or now all of a sudden it just vaporizes all the enemies in front of you. It is all extremely satisfying. The gunplay in this game feels great. The haptic feedback in the DualSense controller on the PS5 is amazing. It's different for every weapon. It makes every weapon feel completely different. The combat in this game feels great. You have a double jump. You have a slide mechanic. The people that you talk to back in the hub, they will give you a main mission to accomplish, but they will also give you a set of, like, submissions, like kill 10 enemies with a slide, or kill 10 enemies with a pistol, or anything like things like that. They give you extra bonus objectives that you can accomplish in addition to the main objectives. What else do I have? One criticism that I do have is that the mission and enemy variety are lacking.
You don't say.
Yeah, there's only, I don't know, there's probably like 6 enemy types in the game, I'm guessing. And then there's only like 3 or 4 different mid-mission types. There's one, like, a horde mode will just start out of nowhere. It'll just say survive, and there will be a meter that'll appear. You have to wait till the meter ticks down. You have to survive until the meter is done. There are nodes that appear that you have to destroy. Sometimes they just ask you to kill a certain number of enemies. Sometimes there are control points that move across the map, and you have to defend the control point while it's moving across the map. And then there are boss battles, which are, oddly enough, they're optional. So once you get to a certain point, this node will appear in the map, and you have to destroy the node to enter the boss fight. Now, the one thing I will say is that any player can do it, which is kind of annoying. So if you don't feel like entering a boss fight, and one of the people that you're playing with is like, I do want to do it, and they enter that boss fight, it sucks everybody into the boss fight. So in that way, like, one player has a lot of control over everything, and that actually happens again. So the way the game is built is in biomes. That's what they call them, that are snapped together. And so you'll play through a couple biomes, and then you'll get to, like, the mid-level, like, room where you can buy new ammo, you can buy new weapons, but you can also change the difficulty there. And that is another element of this game where one player can be like, I want it to be more difficult, and change the difficulty, and there's nothing the other players can do about it. Which, most of the time, it's not that big a deal, but every once in a while you'll get somebody who just jacks it up like 4 levels, and then immediately goes into a boss fight, and like you can't beat the boss. Now, if you die in this game, people can revive you if you're playing with somebody else. But if you die and no one revives you and everybody dies, you have what's called continue tokens, and everybody votes on whether they want to continue or not. So if you've failed the run, you and everybody else you're playing with gets to vote with their continue tokens on whether to continue or not, or go back and start the whole run over. And as you play, you earn extra continue tokens sometimes. Like there was one time where I was the only one left who had a continue token, and I was able to be the only person that voted to continue, and the match continued. But it is an interesting system and how they set it up. And for the most part, it is a democracy, but just those 2 instances where just one person can kind of take everything over for all the other players. There are 4 different bosses that I ended up fighting throughout the time that I spent playing the game, but you never know which one you're going to get. It's just the node that you use to go to the boss fight always looks the same, and you don't know which boss you're going to fight until you get to the boss fight and they introduce the boss. Most of the boss fights aren't too challenging, but I believe 3 of the 4 have a second stage, and obviously, like most games, they get more difficult in the second stage. What else do I have on this game? As far as the level construction and the generating the levels on the fly, there appear to be like 5 or 6 different tile sets. So the levels do get a little repetitive. But I'll say this, it is refreshing when you get to a new one. You're like, oh, I'm in the spooky tile set now instead of the jungle tile set that I've been playing on for the last like hour or whatever. But again, the way the game designs the levels on the fly, it's pretty impressive, man. Like, I never felt like I was in a crappy level where things didn't make sense. And I played this game a lot. What else? Yeah, the other part of the game, too, like any other game where you're playing with other people and it's loot-driven, there is an element of the first person gets a lot of the best stuff. This is another one of those games where the loot that pops for everybody. And so if you don't get there in time, everyone will take all the good stuff and you're kind of left with the scraps, which is not something I'm a big fan of in any game, to be honest with you. Because sometimes you're out of ammo. You run out of ammo a lot in this game. That's one thing I should have mentioned when I was talking about the combat. You're always kind of watching your ammo and trying to find new ammo. There are some weapons that, like, if you take them into a boss fight, once you go through your ammo, you never get any more. So that's one of the reasons why you may not want to get sucked into a boss fight, because you have a weapon that you'll never get ammo for in the boss fight. That happened to me several times, where I was like, wait a minute, I have this crappy gun, and I get sucked into the boss fight, and I have to use like a pea shooter for like 90% of the boss fight, because I unload my clip from my good gun in the first like 2 minutes of the fight or whatever, and you're just kind of stuck with like your crappy weapon that you have left. So it's not perfect. The other thing I want to bring up is the audio in this game is absolutely incredible. In fact, I am earmarking this game for if we include a sound category in our Game of the Year awards this year, because this is awesome. The music in this game, it almost defies description. You have to realize I am like an electronic music aficionado. I know every genre of electronic music, every sub-genre of electronic music, and I cannot put my finger on the music in this. Now, a lot of it is bass heavy, and some people might generically call it dubstep. I think if I had to pick one genre most people know that it's most closely to, it probably would be dubstep, but it's not dubstep at all. And not only the music and the sound effects and everything all work perfectly together. It's hard to put into words how all the different parts of this game come together to create this satisfying whole. But this game sucked me in, and I played it literally like 2 days straight. When I stopped playing last night, I was ranked player 540 out of like 400,000 or something like that. That just shows you how this game got me wrapped up, and I got totally addicted to it and played the crap out of it. Now, I will say this. I feel like I'm kind of done with it. Like, I've seen like I said, I'm ranked 540 out of like 400,000. I've seen most of the game at this point, and I got to it in like 2 days of playing. Now, I'll say this, like, a lot of it depends on who you hook up with. If you hook up with good players who understand the game and understand how to maximize their time playing the game, you can see a lot of the game pretty quickly. If you're kind of fumbling around in the dark with a bunch of other noobs, it's not quite that way. But I was fortunate, particularly the people I played with yesterday. A lot of them had been playing for a while. They were way higher ranked than me. And they actually kind of showed me the ropes a little bit, in all honesty, and kind of showed me how you can get through a lot of the game in a much quicker time than I was spending beforehand. But again, it costs $30. It's available for pretty much everything except Switch. It seems like this game would work great on Switch, and it should be able to run on Switch too for the most part, but it's not available for Switch yet. It may be coming eventually. And it does cost $30, and that seems a little high to me. And it does feel like a free-to-play game, so there's cosmetics that you can buy with the currency that you earn in the game. And I'll be honest with you, like, you earn so much currency just playing the game that I never thought about, even for a second, spending real money on currency. But there is a whole other store just for people who are willing to spend real money on cosmetics and blah, blah, blah.
Here's a little explanation for the music thing I found.
Okay.
Illphonic CEO Charles Brungart is a Grammy-winning producer with an extensive musical background, primarily in hip-hop and electronic trap.
There you go.
Thus, Arcadegeddon boasts a deep soundtrack of futuristic hip-hop beats, some composed by him himself, as well as licensed music from artists such as Getter, Uzi, Fook, Halogenics, Milano, South, and Swirly, several of the tracks composed for the game itself.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So, yeah, there's some pedigree there.
Yeah,
which I guess explains why that company is called Illphonic.
It does, yeah. But it doesn't come out in their other games. That's the crazy part.
No, it really doesn't.
No.
This feels like maybe this is Illphonic Unleashed.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the music in this, it defies description. And it fits. The sound effects, everything. The sound effects feel like they're a part of the music. Like, the whole auditory package is cohesive. It's hard to explain until you play it. And once everything starts exploding and the guns are going boom, it just all snaps together perfectly. I am surprised there aren't more people talking about this game. Like, we have hardly any coverage of it on Sifted. Like, hardly at all. I think we have 5 total pieces of content around this game on the site. And it's been available in early access on PC for a year.
I've never heard of it before.
Yeah. As I said earlier, it is, if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, it is free this month. Go download it right now. I guarantee you, if you even kind of like games like this, meaning 4-player cooperative shooters where you have like a safe house in between each stage, Left 4 Dead basically, you're going to like this game. And you're probably going to get as hooked as I do until you run out of content. Now, I don't know when more content is coming for this game. It seems like it took them a while to get this amount of stuff ready, but I did feel like I wrung it pretty dry in a couple days of heavy playing. But I highly recommend this game, particularly for people who maybe just got back for Blood and were disappointed in it. Because it felt maybe too familiar to Left 4 Dead or World War Z or any of the other cooperative zombie shooters. This is the same framework with a completely different aesthetic, completely different tone, and a completely different vibe. And in my opinion, superior on pretty much every front. I will play this 10 times before I play Back 4 Blood again. I just will. It appeals to me more.
I mean, just the fact that you're not fighting zombies.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I'll say it again, the enemy variety is definitely lacking in this. The game in general needs more enemies. Realistically, there's probably 10 different enemy types that you do fight over and over again. And you do start to learn like which weapons work on specific enemies, and there's that whole kind of angle to it, which gives it a little bit of depth. But at the end of the day, you still are kind of fighting the same enemy types over and over. Now, they'll have, like, different colored ones that may have slight different behaviors, or maybe one will have a shield later on in the game when it didn't have a shield earlier in the game. But for the most part, the enemies do get a little bit repetitive in this game. But I enjoyed the hell out of it. I had a ton of fun with it. It's called Arcadegeddon. You can pay $30 for it. I would not pay $30 for it. This is a $20, $25 game to me. But if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, it is free. Go download it right now. I do not think that you will be disappointed. Do you have any questions about the game, Matt?
Not really.
Will you play the game, Matt?
Not really.
I didn't think so.
I like the aesthetic. I like what they're going for. It's just not the kind of game I am gonna, because I know I'd play it by myself, and I'd hit a point where I couldn't really get any further because it's supposed to be multiplayer, and then I'd just be annoyed. And
I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, that's something that I forgot to mention. What it's like playing the game by yourself. You can see all this B-roll with me playing by myself.
Yeah.
None of this has been cooperative, and it's doable by yourself. The boss fights is where the rubber hits the road. So I got to the boss right here. This is what I was talking about. Here's the boss fight right here. I fought him twice, and I got to where he had like a pixel of health left both times and died. I'll be honest with you, they have balanced it pretty well. Whether you play it by yourself. Now, I'll say this. It's maybe a little too easy when you play with other characters, but playing by yourself, I think it's very well balanced, honestly. Probably better balanced than it is for cooperative. We were kind of breezing through the game when I started playing with like other players who have been playing it for a while. Single player, the boss fights are a real challenge for sure. So even if you're not interested in playing with others, this game is worth investigating. Again, especially if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, you can get it for free. If you don't want to play with others, that's cool. You can play this by yourself. All this B-roll that you've been watching this whole time was me playing by myself. So it's definitely doable. It is harder than if you play with other people, but that's kind of true of a lot of cooperative games, I think.
Yeah.
It seems to be playing by yourself.
Harder to impossible in many cases.
Yeah. Yep. So there you go. Arcadegeddon. I recommend it at $20 to $25. I guarantee you, if you download it for free with your PlayStation Plus subscription, you will not complain about the time that you spent playing the game. It's always nice to get some pleasant surprises, Matt. Mm-hmm. This year we could have used more of them because we've had some really dry spells. It was nice to find this game and enjoy playing it, because I'm like at the point now where like I didn't really resonate with Call of Duty Vanguard. I think I have just officially reached my breaking point with Rocket League. I don't think I'm going to play it anymore. I think I'm done. I can't tolerate. You get to a certain level of playing a game where you know how things are supposed to work and what people are supposed to be doing, and when they don't do it, it's very frustrating. And that's where I'm at with Rocket League. Mm-hmm. Like you get matched with people who are terrible. There's nothing you can do about it. And it's just this seesaw. Oh, I'm platinum. Now I'm gold. Now I'm platinum. Now I'm gold. It's like I either win 15 matches in a row or I lose 15 matches in a row. And I've just gotten sick of it. So I'm trying right now to find a new daily driver, honestly. Like that game that I always have that I pick up and play for 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there. So I've been doing a lot of experimenting this year, and unfortunately, for the most part, that has not borne any fruit. However, with this game, I finally feel like I may have found something if they can keep adding content at a decent clip. So I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys do too. I think we're all kind of looking for something to play right now. Like, it is just the doldrums. Like,
Stray's coming.
It is, but my guess
coming.
is that game's going to be like 8 hours long or something, and it'll be gone. Who knows? But that's just my guess.
I don't need much more than that, to be honest.
Yeah, but I do. Like, I always need a game that I'm playing just in the background. Is this thing that I use to suck up whatever little free time that I actually have. And right now, I didn't feel like I had one as I'm waning with Rocket League. And so maybe I found it with this. And the other thing I would say, too, is just maybe I got lucky. But the community in this game has been awesome so far. Like, as far as, like, helping people along. And, like, even if they don't chat, they will do, like, the emotes with the guns and stuff to try to tell you, like, give you hints on how to do things the right way and how to play it the right way. So I've had good luck with the community so far. I've had good luck with the game. No glitches, no bugs, no crashes, anything like that. Again, a great byproduct of being in early access for a year before you release it. So I really enjoyed it. And hopefully you guys do, too. Fire Native says, I can't fly, that's why I quit Rocket League. Yeah. Well, here's another thing a problem I have with Rocket League is that you get the people who are on your team who are trying to learn how to fly. And instead of going to training and learning how to fly in training, they're trying to learn how to fly in ranked games. It's like, okay, even if you don't want to do it in training, go play casual, dude, and learn how to fly in casual. Don't ruin my rank because it's like they're just ignoring the ball. It's like the ball comes at them and they just fly like 90 yards out into space. It's like, and then the other team scores. I've just reached the end of all of it. Then you get the toxic players who are spamming like the chat, or they have a microphone. They're yelling crap in your ear the whole game, and they suck.
I just playing the most generic hip hop in their bedroom.
Right.
It's like it's an excellent simulation of what it was like to live in my dorm sophomore year.
Yeah.
But like I'd rather not revisit that really.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, I am still looking for that daily driver. If any of you guys have any suggestions, maybe you guys have a daily driver that you found, put it in the comments below, either on Sifted or on YouTube, wherever you're watching the show. And while you're at it, add me on PSN or Xbox Live. I'm Dinfire everywhere. And maybe we can get together and play. But I am definitely looking for that now. Sneaky says, join me in Fortnite no build mode if you need something. Okay. That was my problem with Fortnite. And I would also equate flying in Rocket League to building in Fortnite. It's that extra layer of skill that the really good players have that other players don't have. And getting over that
sort of like knowing the frame data in a fighting game.
It is same deal. Yep, same thing. And like one thing to your point about like when you couldn't fly, you quit. I get it, because once you get into the platinum ranks of Rocket League, if you don't fly, you'll never touch the ball. Because the ball is being played way higher off the court. And if you can't get up there and accurately play the ball, you're just the dude on the ground chasing the ball all the time. And that will force you to either learn how to fly or to quit playing Rocket League like you said you did. So I totally get that. But again, if any of you guys have games that you play regularly that I haven't talked about on GameFace, that I haven't given a good try to, let me know, and maybe we can jump in and play together. And with that, it's time for everybody's favorite, Name That Game. Once again, I am so supremely confident that I'll make it to the third inning.
You screwed me up this week on my Guess the Game Wordle style thing.
How come?
Because the game that came up was Dragon Age Inquisition, and I
No
knew
way.
it. I knew it by the second or third screenshot, but I'm like, it can't be that. They just did that.
What are
one.
the chances?
And it wasn't them. It was
us.
you.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, and finally I'm like, that has to be Dragon Age Inquisition. Why would they do it a second time? I go, it wasn't a second time because that was just Guess the Game. That was Name That Game.
Caver brought up Neon White. Have you tried that yet, Matt?
No.
The speedrunning game, the crazy speedrunning game?
No.
I think we may be talking about that in next week's show, actually. That game has caught my eye. So I may give that a whirl for next week's episode. It's a game built around speedrunning.
Yeah, I can't think
Have
of
you checked it out at all? Have you seen like trailers?
I've seen
for
trailers.
It? Okay.
I can't think of anything I'm less interested in than that.
I want to give it a whirl just because it's kind of a thing, and I feel like I need to know
I can try it because
all
there's nothing else
the things.
There's nothing else to play really, but like, oh boy, I can't imagine something I would want to do less than speed run something.
Yeah. Well, I think you can just play it if you want to, but it's been designed so that it's easy to speed run as far as its structure and stuff. So I think I'll give it a go.
It just looks like the same kind of flashy style over substance game that I just don't care about most of the time. And I thought it was multiplayer the first time I saw the trailer. I was like, oh, it looks like
it would be.
It looks like it, but I guess it's not. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. JM Rain says, I will continue to play Elden Ring with you. I don't know if I'm going there. I think that ship has sailed. I think I've given Elden Ring all I've got. I did give it all I had. Notzerk says DNF Duel. That's a fighting game from Arc System Works.
Yes.
That came out that maybe we should give a spin for next week's show as well.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yep. So we'll see. We're always working for you guys to make sure we have a bunch of good, exciting stuff on GameFace. Okay. As I said, it's time for Name That Game. And for those of you who haven't played before, I'm going to show you a series of screenshots, and it's your job to guess the name of the game. You're playing against Matt. You guys win all ties. If Matt guesses the name of the game correctly, I look over at the chat. If the correct name of the game pops up in the next beat or two, you guys will get the win. The first person to guess the name of the game gets a free video game, and I once again want to send out a big thanks to SJD Swanland, who just sent me another batch of free game codes, and these are good games. Like, I'm surprised at the stuff that he's giving away. You should appreciate him and thank him in chat if you can. I don't even know if he's in the chat. I haven't seen him say anything yet today. But he just sent me another batch of games, which gives us more stuff to give away to you guys for Name That Game. I see some people subscribing with Twitch Prime. I'll get those in now so I don't forget them. Mega Drive Guy, thank you. And The Legacy, thank you. Okay, Vincent, set it up on slow mode.
Oh, it's been on slow mode.
Okay, so the chat is on slow mode, which means in the past, people would just spam game names. And eventually, people would get them right. So to circumvent that, it's on slow mode. You can only send out one guess. Is it every 30 seconds or 60
Every
seconds?
minute.
You only get one guess a minute. So make sure it counts. Don't just go spamming names of games. Also, if you've won this year, do not play. Some of you guys are really good at this, and you guys have already won, and you've already got your free game. Let's let other people win. I know it's tough. Bite your tongue. Do not, go in and, give the name of the game in the chat. I will be really pissed if you do that. I'm just telling you right now. Don't do it. We don't want to ban you from chatting on GameFace. That might be what happens if you do that. So, here we go. We're ready for the first screenshot for Name That Game for episode 307. Here we go. Hoping we make it past the first screenshot. I really think we might make it to the third one this time at least. We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, did someone get it?
Yes!
Quantum Break?
Yes!
Wow.
It's Quantum Break.
First time chat. They didn't win before.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Although Mitchell is, I don't know if he, everyone's answering it now. I don't know if they saw his already. But, wow. That's incredible. Dracomium, first time ever chatting in our chat, and he drops in to win Name That Game. Amazing, dude. That is crazy that you got it from that. That's nuts.
Now that he says it, I can see it. I never played.
Can you?
Yeah, the whoa. the shatter effect. I can see that. I would never got it because I've never played that game. So I would not have gotten that myself, but now that he says that, I can see it.
I honestly thought nobody would get this. Literally, so this next one that I use, it shows, the fracture. And I did it on purpose. I was like, okay, the next shot I'm actually going to show the fracturing. Mm-hmm. But I still didn't think people would get it from that.
I still wouldn't have known that. I would not have known that.
Yep. And then they get a little more obvious as it goes. Here's a third one.
I can't even see that.
So there's an enemy's head right there. Mm-hmm. And I thought the head might give it away to people who really knew Quantum Break. And that's kind of what you want with the third image. And then here's the fourth one getting more obvious. Here's pretty much the whole enemy character model from the game. And then for the final image, it was this girl who was, for whatever reason, the most iconic image from Quantum Break. The screenshot with her face looking worried became, the image for this game for whatever reason. But Dracomium, amazing, dude. I cannot believe that you got it from that first screenshot. So, congratulations. Here is your round of applause, by the way. Congratulations. You can DM us here on Twitch, or you can DM me personally on Twitter at Dimfire, or you can DM the site on Twitter at Sifted Games, or you can go on sifted.net and send me a personal message at Shane. Any of those work, and we'll get you your free code for a free video game. Amazing. I wish I knew. And Zabumafu with the Crack Bros, he guessed Control, which was close.
Control was probably I was kind of thinking about saying Control.
Yeah.
But then Dracomium got it.
And then the rest of the folks, I don't know if they just saw his and decided to type in Quantum Break. But if they didn't, that's also amazing. It's amazing. Sneaky, you won already, dude. Why were you guessing?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't Sneaky won? Yeah, he won.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I know he won. Why was he guessing?
I think people were just saying...
After the guy guessed it correctly, that he was right?
I think so.
I hope so. But look, other people were guessing incorrectly still. I don't know what he was thinking there. Some people thought it was The Last Guardian. Okay, I could see that. It's a very unique effect.
Yeah.
But But here's the thing. It's I'm going to go back to it again. This image. I mean, you don't know. Like, that could be zoomed in on like 1 pixel in the screenshot.
Yeah, but the shatter glass like effect is sort of if you've played the whole game, I think you are probably familiar enough with it for it to click.
I played the whole game. I would have never got it. Ever. Like, to me, that could be an indie game that just has like a crazy mosaic art style. Like, there's a billion things.
To me, it looked like something. It looked like running really fast through a forest.
Yeah, there's a million things it could be. But
I haven't played Quantum Break.
But to our winner, it was obvious right away. He guessed it right away. It's crazy. Not Cirque says Quantum Break had so much potential. Agreed. Yeah, bogged down by its TV crap. Yeah, the live action stuff really kind of doomed that game. But amazing work, man. Just send us a DM, Dracomium, and we'll get you your free game. And by the way, why not be a part of chat more often? Contribute. We always go to our chat and pluck out great comments. And if you were able to figure out that was Quantum Break, you know your stuff, bro. So be a part of our chat more often, and we'll mention you in the show. Okay, with that, it's time for some Q&A. Let's see what time we got here. Oh, we're pretty much out of time. We have time to answer a couple. I'm surprised this show made it to 3 hours. I really thought it was going to be a shorty, but not so much. Okay, let's get to some questions. See what you guys got for us. Go at Sifted Games. Oh, also, before we move on, now that everyone's here, go to youtube.com/siftedgames and like the brand new episode of New Dimension right now. If you weren't here, we asked people to do it at the beginning of the show. I'm asking you guys to do it again here at the end of the show. If you would like, even if you just want to type in a comment that says, I love this show, the comments, the likes, all that interaction will help it break through the algorithm so more people can get exposed to the show. I'd really appreciate it. Let's see. Zaboomafu with Crack Bros. You've been a big part of the show. Credit to Vincent. Did Sony tell Square to push Forspoken for God of War so it wouldn't get cannibalized? No, not at all. You can't ask a third party to do that.
No.
They'll laugh in your face. That's not happening at all. Kevin Rafa, which game are you most glad that you went back and played more of this year? That's a good one. Because I have been going back and playing a lot of them. Well, I mean, first of all, I'm glad that I finished Horizon Forbidden West. So that would be number one. I'm glad. Oh, have you finished Guardians of the Galaxy, by the way?
No.
The end of that game is bonkers. I had played 80% of it or something like that. The last 20% of that game is nuts. It is nuts, dude. Like, the endings and everything, it's crazy. I don't know if you guys have made it to the end of that game. Do it. All the decisions that you've made and stuff, it all matters in the end. I was blown away by that. I am almost at the end of Dying Light 2. And the plot stuff has been way heavier of what I played like recently versus what I played back when we initially talked about it. So all that stuff, all the branching story paths and things like that, and your decisions having a bearing on things that happen, really blooming in the late part of that game. As you play through that game, you start taking over like parts of the map, and you have to give them to one faction or the other. So like you take over like a power plant or whatever. You decide whether you want to give it to like one of the groups or the survivors group or whatever. And the decisions that you make there are really, really important. Like, you can't even believe how important they are. But the moment-to-moment gameplay in Dying Light, I have not enjoyed as much going back to it. The parkour, still it just feels off to me. Now, I get that as you go, that you improve your parkour, and it does become faster and more smooth. But I'm like near the end of that game, and there are still moments where it gets a little awkward, like bounding over multiple objects and whatnot. Still a great game, by the way, and I'm glad I've gone back and I'm like trying to finish it, and I'm still enjoying it a lot. But one game of all the ones I've been going back in the backlog that I'm glad that I went back and finished or kept playing, it was definitely Horizon Forbidden West. Although the end of that game kind of falls on its face a little bit. Have you finished that one?
No.
The story at the end of that does not really wrap up in a satisfying way, I guess is the best way I could put it. But it was still a great game all the way to the end. Let's see what else we got here. Another one from Zaboomafu with the Crack Bros. Would you get back into League of Legends because of the worst slump in gaming history? No, I won't. I really have no interest to go back. I played it for so long and so hardcore. I just won't. I think I've just got everything out of it that I can get out of it. I'm not interested in becoming like an esports star. So, no, I don't think I'll go back. I think I'm done. Vincent, you should do a mini fantasy draft for the second half of 2022 since the current one is decided. July needs content. I've thought about it, but it would be so unexciting because the rest of the release calendar is so weak.
Yeah.
Like basically
it's who gets God of War.
Yeah, and you're gonna win.
And I already got God of War.
Yeah. I don't think so. It's just unfortunately just worked out that way this year, and everyone's feeling it, man. Someone did point out though that there are still at least five people in the fantasy challenge who still have the possibility of getting all 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
So
a couple people already got all 10.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, at least one person I saw who all their games already came out.
Oh, they're already out. Okay,
Yeah.
So that'll be different from last year. But we told you guys that should be your number one goal. I wish I listened to myself. I tried to do that, actually. That's the crazy part. Let's see. JM Rain, thank you for all the tier 1 subs, man. You're the best, dude. You're just amazing. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying your summer off as a teacher. That's the one lucky part about being a teacher. All the rest of it sucks. Like, getting paid not what you're worth, having to buy your own school supplies, all that stuff sucks. The only good part is that you get your whole summer off. You can actually really plan vacations and stuff to do. Mitchell is alive. Have either of you played Horizon or Ratchet and Clank on their 120 hertz, 40 frames per second mode? Wait, 120 hertz would be 120 frames a second.
Yeah.
Anyway, no. Have you?
No, I don't have a TV that can do that.
Yeah. Is it, over 60 frames per second worth it? Yes. For like Rocket League, I play that at 120 frames, and it makes a difference.
I don't really see why I'd want to care about it on a single-player game.
Yeah, not as big a deal, where it's not competitive, though. Okay, I think that's it. You guys are short on questions for today, but I understand it because there's nothing going on in the games industry right now. But that's good, because we ran out of time anyway. There you go. That's GameFace, episode 307 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield. You can find me on Twitter at Dinfire. You can find Matt at MKyle. Actually, I haven't shared our Twitter handles for a long time on this show for some reason. I don't know why that is. You can find Matt at MKyle. You can find Sifted at Sifted Games. GameFace is on pretty much every podcast service. I know a lot of people watch the show on YouTube, but if you do want to get it, sometimes it's the same time, but sometimes it's a little bit earlier. If you want the podcast versions, you get a little earlier sometimes. Sometimes the video version doesn't go up on Monday. I do try to get them both up on Sunday. A lot of it depends on how busy my Sundays are. But if you want to make sure that you get it Sunday at around noon Pacific every week, get on a podcast app and subscribe. And while you're at it, give us a review, because that can make a big difference for us. The more reviews a podcast has on the various podcast services, the more they pop up when people search for like video games. Like if someone searches for video game podcast, the more reviews we have, the more likely our show is to pop up at the top. So even if you're a patron, you can totally go and like review GameFace. It's not like it's sneaky or anything. You're just reviewing a podcast that you really like. So if you guys could do that, that would be a huge help. We'd really appreciate it. If you want to support us, head to patreon.com/sifted. That's SIFTD without the E. You can pledge whatever you want, $1 a month, $4,000 million a month, whatever you want. But generally, if you pledge at least $4 a month, you'll get all our content at least 4 days early. In the case of some shows, like we just put up the new episode of New Dimension on YouTube, that was actually a 2-week delay before it went up on YouTube. But for the most part, Pactor Factor's a week. GameFace is 4 days, and most of our other content is 4 days as well. Go pledge at our Patreon. That would be awesome. If you can't afford to do any of that, you can still help us totally for free. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, all you got to do is link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then you can subscribe to our channel and give us a free $2.50 every month. You do have to re-up it every month, and that sucks and it's annoying. I totally get it. But it does only take like 2 clicks once you've actually connected your accounts the first time. And again, that's completely free. It costs you nothing. Amazon gives us the money. And everybody, I think, at this point would like Amazon to pay out a little bit more. Don't you think, Matt?
Probably.
Probably. So anyway, there's lots of ways that you can help us. And if you can't do any of that and you're like, I don't have Amazon Prime, just like the show on YouTube and comment on the show. Again, we're trying to break through these algorithms on YouTube so that the show can reach a new audience. I refuse to believe that the audience that we have on YouTube right now are the only people who want to watch this show. I refuse to believe it. There are billions of gamers out there who have never heard of GameFace, and I believe if they discover it, they're going to like it. So if you can't help us financially at all, you can always do that. You can share it on your social media, you can like the show, you can leave comments. All that stuff will help the show bubble up and reach new people, which is a big deal for us. So that's it. We'll be back next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, as we always are. Until then, have yourself a great week of gaming. GameFace is up and out.